gentlemen, our queen, if she breathes, she's a god!
Well, damn it, I played the wrong intro and I have the wrong background, but you know what? I like that intro better. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the True Pop Culture 7 show. I'm your
Howdy.
host, True Pop, here with Capital Opinions. How are you
Sorry,
doing, Cap?
I was early this time. Howdy. I'm good. I'm good. Sorry we're late. I had some technical difficulties. I've been working outside in the sun and it's fried my brain and I forgot how to use computers, but it's all right. We figured it out and we're here.
We
Thanks for having
eventually
me.
figured out. Oh, no problem, dude. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Always great to talk with you about movies in general. And yeah, I guess what's the Gandalf quote? Oh, a wizard is never late or early. He's precisely on time. So yeah, in a
Something
manner of
like that.
speaking.
You got the gist of it at least.
I haven't watched Lord of the Rings in a while now, but hey, it was something of that quote. Yeah, I suppose this might be a bit of a controversial live stream. Sincerely, because we're doing a negative review of a certain movie that just came out, a certain horror movie, and I guess we'll go right into it without even further delay. I guess we can just talk about our first impression, non-spoilers, what the movie's about, and whatnot.
Sure.
So, Cap, would you like to get into um, how when you first saw the movie, what were your impressions of it, and what were your impressions of it going out? Like a quick summary of yours.
Sure. Longlegs was a movie that I saw quite a bit of marketing for, and I was reasonably excited for it. Maybe a little hesitant because I had seen a previous movie by this director that is Osgood Perkins, the son of what's his name Perkins. I think it's Anthony Perkins, who's Norman Bates from Psycho. Anyway, so I was reasonably excited for the movie. The trailers looked intriguing. I love a good detective mystery, so that the fact that this movie was sort of doing, at least from the trailer, it looked to be Silence of the Lambs, but maybe more overtly horror, is sort of the impression I got from the marketing. And so I went in pretty excited for it, and I was quite disappointed. I did not like the movie. I think it's a mess. I saw it, what was that, a couple days ago in a packed theater Thursday night, which I suppose is opening night here, and a lot of confusion coming out of the theater from people. I heard one guy say, "Dude, I'm so dumb. I didn't get that at all." And I felt bad for him because it's not his fault. And then I heard some other people going like, "Wait, if that happens, then what?" There's a lot of confusion, some strange reactions in the room itself. Hard to judge overall whether everyone liked it, but there was definitely, it wasn't just me, is what I'm getting at. There was quite a bit of confusion as to what exactly the movie was and was trying to do. I think it's a mess. And I think aesthetically, though it has some strong aspects in that regard in terms of how it looks and how it uses sound and editing and that sort of thing, I think the story is awful. I think the story is really dumb, really lame. And I wouldn't recommend the movie except to people who I'm curious to see what they make of it, if that makes sense.
Yes, I am in the exact same boat as you. I saw the marketing for it. I saw some commercials. I always love Nick Cage, whatever he's in. Not particularly a horror guy. You know, for me, I go see horror if it's mixed with something else, like sci-fi or action. You know, like your Alien and Predator, that stuff like that. Don't really go for horror. But you know what? Movies recently have just been really boring lately. So I thought, why not? People are raving about this film, saying it's really good.
No,
So I
there's a
went
lot
to
of there's a lot of hype before it came out from the folks who had seen it in I guess film festival screenings and stuff like that. They're like, oh my god, I shitted and farted. It was so scary. I pooped my pants. Like that's that sort of thing.
yeah. There was like this one commercial I remember seeing. Like this actress's heart rate was
Through the
70 beats
roof.
per
Oh
minute.
my god.
Yeah, and
She was so
170.
scared seeing
Yeah.
Nick Cage for the first time. You're gonna be so scared when you see him too. I'm like, okay. That's when the marketing started to get a little like I started to get a bit more suspicious of that. Like it had some try hard energy. But at first, anyway, keep going.
It was so bizarre because, just like you, for me, the theater was packed, and it's just like it's a niche, small horror movie. Why are people lining up to see this? I guess the marketing really did its job.
I'd say so. And people are always horror always sells. There are
Yeah.
different trends within horror. In the early 2000s, it was a lot of like serial killers killing folks like Jigsaw and torture porn and that sort of thing. And there are certain genres that kind of rise and fall in popularity, subgenres, I should say. But horror always sells. If it looks any good at all, you can get a packed theater for a horror movie. I saw, what was it called? Late Night with the Devil. That
Mhm.
was a really pretty low budget niche like Shudder exclusive horror movie that had a very limited release in theaters. That was a packed theater too, at least in my city. So, there's always an audience for it.
Oh, definitely. Before we get on further, I wanted to say hello to the chat.
Hello to
Very
the
early
chat.
comment. Yeah, the coffee boy. This film sucked. Yes, indeed it did. Coffee.
Yeah, I think it
Indeed
kind of did. I think it kind of did suck.
Hello from Finite. Hello there. Hello. And to Leto as well. Thanks for coming on, Let's. Oh, all right. Anyway, so where was I? Yeah. The theater was packed. And just like you, I didn't quite walking out of it, I was just like, well, that was a bit of a waste of time. I was hoping to be somewhat entertained or engaged, really. But the more the movie went on, the more I'm just thinking, this is really dumb.
Yeah.
So I didn't exactly leave the theater satisfied. I haven't seen a lot of horror, but I think some of the best horror I've seen is Haunting of Hill House. Don't know if you've probably heard of that.
I have, yes.
This show, and I think one of the main reasons why I liked that show and it scared the hell out of me because of all the jump scares is because it had very good, relatable, easy to connect with main characters, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of explored the aftermath of the haunted house. It kind of still follows them along, and you could easily relate to them. I think that's one of this movie's biggest problems. I could not connect with the main character at all. I think that's one of its biggest flaws. But
Oh, I totally agree with you. I don't understand. It's not even that I don't like the main characters. I don't understand her as a person. I don't believe her as a person. There's so much I don't understand about what they're even trying to say about her. And she's very, to the degree that she is definitively characterized, I don't like her really. There's just little tiny things. One thing that really bothers me, and it's the smallest little detail, but she goes to her superior officer's house, right? And she meets his family. And when they say hello to her, she just stares and doesn't say anything
yeah,
back. I'm
and
like,
then it's
"What?"
like cut when she's about to say something. It's just like what?
It's very strange. And no, it's one thing if that's her character, she's awkward and she doesn't have strong social skills, except that the movie never addresses it. The movie is like no one responds the way you would if you say hello to someone and they just stare at you and don't say anything. Like no one reacts appropriately to her awkwardness. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I found that is emblematic of how unpalatable her character is to the degree there is one, there's all sorts of stuff I want to get into about whether she's a good FBI agent or not, or whether she's even supposed to be. It's very unclear.
Yeah. All right. I guess we're getting. I wanted to talk a little bit about the marketing before we get dig it into it. I guess it was a weird fascination people had with this movie. Again, like you said, it was compared to Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, at least on the surface, there are some similarities, right? It seems very much intentional, not just as a meta talking point, but in the movie, she's a young, up-and-coming FBI agent who gets brought on to a big serial killer case, right? It's already, that's the bones of the Silence of the Lambs.
I didn't get that at all.
I mean, okay, well, everything it does with that is either wasted or goes in the exact opposite direction of what would be interesting. So no, I think it pales in comparison to the Silence of the Lambs in just about every way. But I think it's obvious why the comparison is being made. I think that's intentional on the part of the writer to evoke the Silence of the Lambs. For what purpose exactly, I don't know, because he's clearly not interested in any of the aspects of the Silence of the Lambs that make it good, I would say. He's definitely not interested in the detective mystery, even though that is the story. He's not interested in the nitty-gritty of how a case like that is solved, because spoiler alert, it just turns out to be magic. Magic bullshit. So there's no, detective stories are probably my favorite type of story. I really like detective novels and fiction, and The Silence of the Lambs is one of my favorite movies. I think it's legitimately one of the best movies of all time, and it does a really good job of leading you along this mystery where people are actually using things like deductive reasoning and criminal profiling to actually solve a case. Whereas in this movie, it kind of, much like oh god, what's his name? Bob, or what's the serial killer's name in The Silence of the Lambs?
Hannibal.
Buffalo Bill.
Oh, Buffalo Bill.
Much like Buffalo Bill, this wears the skin suit of the Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
Like it dresses up in the trappings of a detective mystery, only to not really have one, and that's lame. That's really lame, I think.
No, definitely, it does feel to some degree kind of like you go into it with certain expectations from the marketing, and you don't get that in the film.
I totally agree. And what you do get is very much not something you could predict from the marketing, I would say. The magic element is not something I would have predicted from the marketing. You know what I mean? It seemed like, oh, we're trying to catch a serial killer who has some occult, satanic, imagery going on in whatever he's doing.
As a big Catholic, I have stuff to say about this.
Oh, there's a lot to say about that aspect of the movie. I can't wait.
I was going to check this out, but I may have to reconsider it.
Well,
would you encourage people to see this movie just to form an opinion, or say no, don't waste your time?
It's hard to say. Mahler asked me if he should see it, and I said, well, I want to know what you think of it, but I wouldn't recommend it otherwise. Like, if you weren't a movie reviewer that I was friends with, I wouldn't recommend it to you. But
if you're a normal friend, I would. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know, but if you're the kind of person that loves horror movies and will go see any horror movie, I mean, I guess go check it out. A lot of people seem to enjoy it. I just think the story is terrible. I think the story is really terrible. And I think a lot of the people that like it, it's a mix of things. The most charitable thing is that they just found it scary, and that's what they were looking for, kind of full stop. That's the end of it, right? Less charitably, I think hype is playing a big part. And because people, when they're that excited for a movie, they really want to like it. And, even if they're a little disappointed, they'll look on the positive side. And then the last thing is that I just think some people, especially horror fans, don't really care about the story. They just care about vibes. And
Yeah.
it's that kind of movie. It's a vibes type movie. But if you care about how pieces come together logically, if you care about storytelling, if you care about the character writing in general, I don't think you'll like the movie. That's my prediction
Mm-hmm.
for you.
No, definitely. You have to like get more to see this just so like we can see how he craps on it. I'd love to see that. But anyway, let's get straight into the movie. You said before in your introductory summary that this movie is kind of well edited, good sound effects and stuff like that. And the first scene, I was hooked.
Yeah.
I was definitely interested. Like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Like, I remember the frame shrinking. I don't know what's the technical term for it, even though I should know
I
this.
think they're just using a zoom lens.
Okay.
There are scenes in this movie we should specify. There are scenes in the movie that take place in the 70s, but most of the film takes place in the 90s. And the way
I was struggling to place it. When does the detective work exactly?
it's in the
happen?
90s
Okay.
for sure. You can see pictures of Bill Clinton on the wall in the
Yes,
detective's
yeah,
office,
yeah.
things like that. It's definitely the 90s. That's another reason it's trying to evoke the Silence of the Lambs, because that was, I believe, 94. So yeah, the main detective work is happening in 1990 something, and there are flashbacks to we'll just say one or some of the characters in the past, and that's in the 1970s. So when we're in the 1970s, the frame is boxier. It's more of a 4x3 sort of thing with rounded edges for some reason, rounded corners, I should say. And in those sequences, they use a lot of zoom lenses, so that like when the frame is shrinking like that you're talking about, they're just zooming in and zooming out and stuff like that, which was much more commonly done in the 70s than it is today.
Okay.
So I think part of that was something to evoke the time period a little bit, is what I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah, but it's effective. Those scenes are pretty effective, especially at the beginning, for sure.
Oh, definitely. I love this little technique of when we do get this girl, we follow her around. She goes outside in this little snowy landscape, which I love snowy landscapes. I rarely see them in England here, but when I do see them, I absolutely love to see everything covered in white snow. And then there's this creepy car in the background, and obviously the girl meets Longlegs. I can't remember what his real name. They do say it in the movie.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but
Yeah,
Nicolas Cage and or Longlegs.
The Cage.
Yes, we see him, and there's an effective thing they do, at least for the first part of the movie, where you don't see his full face for a while. I wish they carried that through longer, actually. But when we see him at first, he's framed such that basically below
His face is out
nose,
of frame. Yes.
yeah, his eyes and his nose are out of the frame, but like his
I love that.
lips and down are in the frame, and that's kind of interesting. And there's some cool stuff aesthetically, I would say, is where the movie shines, at least in the beginning, but then even that kind of wanes by the end, in my opinion.
Yeah. You go exactly. You have this expectation from the marketing. You're seeing the scene, and it's just like, ooh, I'm about to go in for a ride.
He's a child killer, it appears.
Yeah.
He's there and he's being creepy. He's always creepy in the movie. He's never hiding it very well. We'll talk about the implications of that later, but he's very obviously a creepy guy, and everything you expect from the marketing is that he's going to kidnap and kill this little girl. Yikes. Yep. That's a pretty bold way to start, and it's effective. And there's a weird transition where he says, and I'm assuming this is where the title comes from. He says like, he says something like, I have my long legs on, and then he like crouches down so he can be more at the girl's height. And then as soon as he enters the frame, it like hard cuts to the title. It's jarring in a way that's kind of
effective,
shocking and strange and effective. Yeah,
because we as human beings are afraid of the unknown. What goes on in the dark, and his face is kind of that thing. Like we don't know what exactly he looks like.
Yeah.
And when it's revealed only for a second, and we hard cut to the title, stuff like that. It's very simple stuff, but all the more it's effective. But it's only that we get more details as we go on in the film that it just gets progressively worse. So we go to this FBI room, I suppose, after this, and we get the main character. Again, like you said throughout the movie, I get the sense that she is socially awkward, but I was like wondering, is she autistic in some sense, or is that the implication? Because she's just like, whenever she talks with people, she kind of doesn't look them directly in the eye. She kind of talks like this with her head down, never directly into the camera.
Yeah.
It got to a point for me where it was just downright annoying rather than.
I think part of the reason I was so frustrated by things like that is that no one seemed to treat her the way you would if they were really behaving like that. If she was actually autistic, and then let's say she's autistic, but she's really good at her job, that's why she's made it this far as a FBI detective or whatever. There'd be some tension between people who aren't autistic, especially in the 90s, who don't really know a lot about how to talk to someone like that. It doesn't even need to be made explicit, because you know what I mean, because maybe she was undiagnosed or that sort of thing. There's a lot you can do with a character who's like that, but it's never addressed at all. It's just she's really weird, and no one treats her like she's acting weird, even though she obviously is.
I guess people defending this would classify that, well, because of all the devil work kind of stuff, she's like a traumatized child. That's why that'd probably be the justification. But I still think you have to make the character relatable in some way. And like you said,
say
the movie,
understandable.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah, and like
I
you
need
said,
to understand who she is as a person, and I don't at all.
Exactly. Yep. It doesn't matter whether or not she has autism. It matters if I understand her.
Yeah, because I mean,
it'd
be nice if she was likable the way Clarice is in Silence of the Lambs, for example. There's plenty of examples. She doesn't have to be likable, but I have to understand who she is as a person, and I really don't. What I really don't understand is whether the movie is even sure if the movie is even sure whether it thinks she's a good detective or not.
Yeah,
because I'm pretty convinced she isn't, but I can't tell if that's the point or not.
Especially by the end.
Yeah,
like I was like, what are you doing? Just make you've seen these crime scenes before. You know what happens.
Yeah,
do something.
Things get really stupid by the end.
Yeah.
But I think one of the first things we see is, they're in a briefing, and she's on a case. She's being tasked with going door to door, asking people, have you seen this man? They're looking for a suspect. This is not the Nick Cage suspect that we're going to be after later. This is a minor case that ultimately goes nowhere, but you don't know that when you're watching it. So you think like, oh, they're already looking for this guy.
You kind of think to yourself, oh, after that scenario that we were just shown with Nick Cage and that little girl, maybe this FBI police is looking for that individual. Because they say Caucasian male and stuff like that. And it's just like, maybe, but it's actually a time jump. Yeah.
It's a time jump for one, and also, well, it's not even, it's a different case entirely. So they're like, okay, you're going door to door, real boots on the ground, like you see in the movies, police work, right? So they go to this kind of cookie cutter neighborhood, and she's randomly assigned to this guy who's also a junior FBI agent, I assume. And he goes up to one door and he's asking whatever. And she gets out of the car and she's looking around the neighborhood. She looks at a house and goes, that one, the suspect is in that one.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. And the other guy's like, what are you talking about? It's like, the suspect is in that house. We should call for backup. And he's like, I'm not calling for backup on a hunch. And I was like, okay, I like this guy. This guy's good. And he's like, well, look, I'll go up. Go ahead.
He was shown to be like an asshole before that, though. Like he's saying to her, stay in the car because of I can't remember
he
exactly
wasn't-
what he says. He just
I
seems
could-
to be an ass.
He
From
wasn't.
the beginning.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I didn't find him to be a major league asshole or anything, but there's, he had that sort of perhaps a douchey aura, we could call it.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
but he's totally right.
What was the intention? We don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it's not clear because he wasn't super rude to her. He's like, I don't know. He's like, you can stay here in the car if you want. I'll go to this store. You'll get the next one or whatever. I don't know.
Mhm.
I wasn't sure what they were going for with him because he's
Same.
not long for this world. So he says, you know what? We're not calling in for backup. I'm not calling in backup on our first day because you're sure he's in that house. Look, I'll go up to the house and I'll ask, whoever's there, I'll knock on the door. So he goes to knock on the door, but then because very specific things need to happen, the way the door is set up is it's kind of around the corner from the main sidewalk approaching the house, such that you can't see the door. This is important only because something's going to happen at the door and our main character and the person at the door can't see each other. Otherwise, there's no real reason for them to be set up like this, but whatever, it's fine.
Good for picking that up because I was gonna say that this whole scene that we're diving into, I just find it incredibly contrived. Like she gets
every aspect of it gets worse.
No, and you picked up another layer of contrivance about the door because she gets assigned to the right neighborhood. She's in the right position of the FBI to get this specific case. She has this specific hunch around the neighborhood and the door.
Because she goes up to the door as well, but she's a few steps behind the guy.
Yeah.
So if she was right there next to him, she also would have been shot and killed. That's what's about to happen.
Yeah.
She would have been killed. If she waited in the car, she would have been even they probably should have staged it where she was just still in the car, but whatever. There's a weird rounding of the corner to even see the door. And so the guy her partner goes, knocks on the door, opens it up, and she's like, hello, sir, have you seen? And then boom, he gets shot in the head. He's dead. And
me when Jehovah Witnesses.
Yeah. So she sees him get killed, but doesn't see the person at the door. And the person at the door presumably doesn't see her. She's shocked, as we are, the audience shocked, because we're like, what the fuck was that? Didn't expect that. So that's, at least effectively shocking. Then the next thing we see is she's running into the house without calling for backup. First big mistake in terms of, if I'm supposed to believe she's good at this is the first big mistake. But if because you would call for backup. She doesn't call for backup. I don't know why they just show her calling for backup.
She's outside the house looking at the body. She shouldn't call for backup.
But then she runs into the house. She's got her gun pulled and everything. She's doing a terrible job of clearing the house. You know what I mean?
And the house is wrapped in foil. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of tarp up and stuff like that. Like clear plastic tarp between rooms and stuff, like it was being renovated or something. She's doing a really bad job of like checking corners and stuff like that. She's just running through the house. Essentially, she hasn't cleared that room. He could just be waiting for there. She could have died so many different ways. But speaking of contrivance, she goes all the way up to the top floor of the house without checking that the whole bottom floor is secure or anything like that, or calling for backup, as far as we can tell. She gets up to the top room, and the person she's looking for, the guy who just killed the other FBI agent immediately, is just sitting on the bed with his hands in the air like, oh, you got me, because he wanted to be caught for some reason. Okay, and that's our introduction to this character, right?
She could give himself up at the door.
Yeah, no, but we're done with that case now. So we have no idea why he killed the guy, only to give himself up. We don't know. That is
only going to make his case worse. Why was there a need to shoot anyone?
See, this is the thing, and the movie gets worse in this regard too. But the movie doesn't seem to understand criminal psychology the way better movies about serial killers and stuff like that do. Who've because the people making Silence of the Lambs really studied real cases and stuff like that. And he was very much derived from a few different real serial killers and kind of blended into a real person, right? Or into a fictional person.
I did read the Silence of the Lamb book. And I think Thomas Harris, I think that's what his name was.
Mm-hmm.
He did base the book off a actual experience. He went to a psychiatric hospital, and I think he met someone in there who was indeed a cannibal, but kind of like
Interesting.
a very calm and collected individual. So
Yeah.
I think the author did also have some experiences with crime, with mental hospitals and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And yeah, like you said, it's not surprising to me that the movie also did this.
Well, a
Extensive
couple of
research.
the actors and the director met with the guy who is a real FBI profiler. The
Mhm.
guy who, have you ever seen Mindhunter, the show?
Yes.
Okay, so the real guy who wrote the book Mindhunter, on which everything is based, that guy worked with the people in Silence of the Lambs to try and help
Cool.
them make it as accurate as possible. So these better movies, they have a better understanding of criminal psychology. Now, we're not going to get any more detail on this case of the guy
At
who shot
all.
the FBI agent, because
Does
that's
she
done
get
now.
promoted? Is that the implication as well?
Presumably she gets promoted after that. That seems to be the implication. It's not made clear, but that's the only reason for showing that, other than to have a scary thing happen early on. That's really the only reason, as far as I can tell.
I
The
really thought
guy,
that was Nick Cage, the guy who shot.
yeah, you would think so by implication.
Yeah.
You're like, oh wait, that's not even the main case of the story. Okay, that was just to set up who she is, I guess. The
Yep.
guy who ends up giving himself up, why does he shoot the FBI agent immediately when he comes to the door if he's going to give himself up? If the FBI comes to find you at your house and you were planning to give yourself up, you would just give yourself up immediately. If you're planning to go out in a blaze of glory, you wouldn't just stop at the one guy who came to the door. You would also try and kill the other. If you're looking to cause as much
Damage.
calamity and destruction and damage as possible, you would just be like waiting in the house for her to come in so you can shoot them too. You go out in a blade. You know what I mean? Like, those are more understandable criminal motivations and psychotic even motivations than what this guy does, who seems to have read the script and knows we need something scary to happen here, but we can't kill our main character. So I'm going to give myself up immediately after killing the first officer I saw immediately as well. It doesn't make any sense.
Nope, completely agreed.
And very contrived for a whole slew of reasons. She ran into the house unarmed without calling for backup. She probably would have been killed. That's the end of the movie right there. He just happens to want to give himself up and doesn't even try shooting at her. Also contrived that she has psychic powers, which is what we're establishing.
Yeah.
Because immediately after that, I believe she's in a dark, weirdly lit dark
Yeah.
room, and she's undergoing what appears to be some sort of
That
what would you say, a
test.
test to see if you have psychic powers. And it's things like showing abstract shapes on slides and being like, okay, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you see these? And I'm like, this is mildly interesting. And then it's like, okay, a number has been generated between 1 and 100 inclusive. What is the number? And she says it. And then they ask her about more images. They ask her about another number. That's that sequence. We don't really get any answers or context for it. Immediately, next thing we see, I'm almost done with this ramble, I promise.
Okay.
She's in the car with her superior officer, and she's in a neighborhood. She's being shown a house where a murder-suicide took place, and that is the actual introduction to the main case of the story. But before they introduce the main case of the story, her superior officer, she's just been promoted. This is her new boss, presumably, says like, "Hey, how did you beat that the number test 4 times? That's crazy." And she's like, "I also missed 4 times or 8 times, whatever it was."
Yeah,
So
it
she's
was
got
8
like
times.
50-50.
Yep.
And he's like, "Well, partly psychic's better than no psychic, I guess." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess she's partially psychic."
Guess
That's
she's
all we
psychic.
get.
Yeah.
So the movie has tried to establish that she gets hunches that turn out to be true because she just has psychic powers. Already, I'm worried because I like a good detective mystery, and I realized pretty quickly that we're not going to solve this case through actual detective work. We're going to solve this case through psychic bullshit, which is just less interesting for me. But
Yep.
so be it. So basically what we've learned is that she's partially psychic, which means, okay, so if someone's asking you, hey, like what's the number 10 through 100 inclusive, you have a 1 in 101 chance of getting it right. So if she's 50% correct, that's way better than chance. So that's really good. So she's pretty psychic, but not all. I don't know. I'm confused, I should say, by what the point of making her mostly psychic is. And I feel like the only reason for mostly but not completely psychic is that we can have her be psychic when it's necessary and then not when he wants certain things to happen in the story. That seems to be the real justification. Also, her psychic powers seem to go away in the second half of the movie.
It's not really brought up for the rest of the movie, to be honest.
Except for that she gets hunches about what to do and where to find the next clue, that sort of thing. Clue in giant air quotes here.
Yep.
They don't really make good use of it, I would say.
No, exactly. Already we have several problems here because, for one thing, that beginning scene could easily be fixed with, I don't know, perhaps the shooter shooting himself, something like that.
Yeah.
Instead of just simply surrendering. I suppose there can be easy fixes to it. And second of all, that test, I have multiple questions. How is she finding herself in this room specifically? Why is there a test in the FBI for psychic ability? All right, that's one. Two, why would they give her this test? Did she tell the backup, hey, I just had a hunch this guy was going to be in this home? And then they thought to themselves, oh, wow, you must be psychic. Then you have to get this test. I don't think that would
if you pull
happen.
this thread too much, it causes problems because, okay, what you have to assume is that she was asked in the aftermath, how did you know he was going to be in this house? Blah, 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 blah. She gives her story. They're like, how did you know? And she's like, I don't know. I just had a hunch. What you have to assume is that in this world, that psychics just exist. They must be incredibly rare, but psychics exist. Because if this was just the normal world, our world in the 90s, I don't think the FBI has infrastructure in place to test people for psychic powers. I don't think that was a thing in the 90s. It's a little before my time, so I can't say for sure. But because I was just a wee lad in the 90s. But I don't think that the FBI was super convinced that psychics were real in the 90s. I think this is just something that we're saying in this world, psychics exist and they're rare. But it happens enough that the FBI would have tests in place to determine how psychic people are, I guess. A general psychic aptitude test, it seems to be.
Either way, I thought this was a terrible way of introducing us, because I was confused as to what world are we in exactly for the FBI to do a psychic test. At first I thought that test was for some kind of trauma or something like that.
Well, yeah, because with the looking at abstract shapes and asking people to say the first word that comes to mind, that feels more like a sort of therapy type thing.
Yeah.
Because they're just circles and squares in different colors and different arrangements. So if she's associating them with certain concepts, it's revealing things about her mind and her, all that sort of stuff. So that feels less like it has anything to do with psychic aptitude. Just feels like a basic psychology exam, psychological profile of a young agent, which no doubt they would do for real. So the number thing just feels like that was thrown in to establish this pseudo psychicness. I don't know why. But by the end of the story, we're going to find out that there is just magic in this world.
Yeah.
So it's unclear whether that's something the world is aware of, broadly speaking. Is this just a version of the world where, magic is real a little bit and people know it, or is this new? I don't know.
Yeah. Another point that I wanted to make is if the FBI have a psychic test, would it be safe to assume they have other psychics in the FBI?
I think absolutely. I think there's no reason to assume they wouldn't, based on what we've seen.
why wouldn't they be added to this case? Because the boss is, I think he's looking for someone who's psychic, with his line, well, it's better to be half psychic than not at all, to help him with this difficult case, should we say. So
Yeah. I think this case, it's also unclear exactly how high profile this case is.
Mhm.
Because it's a very strange case. We're about to get into it, but this is a very unusual. This is not a typical serial killer case, you could say. There's a strange twist to it in that you wouldn't necessarily even assume that it was a whole bunch of related killings at first, if it weren't for someone claiming to have been behind it all. So I don't know if it's quite high profile enough that maybe their best people psychically would be sent to work on it. Maybe. So I think maybe there's some justification there. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I don't
It
know.
depends how many lives, I suppose, would take. I can't remember how many Nick Cage took exactly.
Well, quite a few.
It does seem quite a few, yeah.
You know what I would expect more from this movie based on what we've heard? I would expect more skepticism at the fact that these cases are even related. That's what I would expect. So okay, so we should probably talk about the case itself.
Yes, yeah, dig in. Oh, this
All
is
right, so
getting interesting already.
the girl is been newly promoted from junior detective to full detective or whatever. It's not, it's not specified. But now she's working on a big case, and she has a new boss who I quite like. He's probably the only character I do like. It's a shame what they do with him in the end.
Yep.
But I like him at first. At first he says, "Hey, how'd you beat that number test?" Well, being half psychic's better than no psychic. Anyway, here's what we're here to show you. And there's a house in the distance, and he says, "This is a house where a murder suicide took place. Presumably, the husband killed his one or two kids, I don't remember, and his wife, and then shot himself in the head. And there has been, I think, at the time he first says this, maybe 3 or 4 or maybe even more. I don't remember the exact number, but there have been a number of murder suicides, like full family murder suicides in this one area in a relatively short amount of time. I can't remember the year as well, like the time frame. Do you? Well, the first one happened in the 70s, so it's been a couple decades.
It's always on a specific birthday, that's what I remember. So they have to be a month apart. Right?
No, well, not exactly.
Okay.
Because the first one happens in the 70s. So this has been happening for at least 2 decades, roughly speaking. And they're a bit spread out, but like you said, they always happen around a certain
Right.
day of the month. It's not, I don't think there's 12 a year, for example. But
Okay.
I don't think there's quite that many, but I don't remember the exact number. Anyway, this is
And
very go
the
ahead.
thing that connects them all is a letter from Longlegs.
Yes.
Right? That's
So
why they bundled all these cases together. Otherwise, no one would connect these cases together.
yeah, it's
all
very
without that
strange. A
note.
whole bunch of murder suicides with no apparent motive, all in a similar area within a few years of each other, let's say. It's very odd, but were it not for someone who's written letters to the police and maybe the press, I don't remember, I think just the police, claiming responsibility for them, a person who goes by the name of Longlegs, who is also attached ciphers, very much pulling this from the Zodiac killer. He's attached
Could I
ciphers.
interrupt you quickly there?
Yeah, go for it.
Given what we know how it ends, would it not be more beneficial for him not to write fucking anything?
I am very confused as to what that character wants, what his ultimate goal is, because
he wants to be everywhere is a little line from what I took place.
he seems to want to,
Okay, so you want
transcend.
as big of a pool of kills as possible. Why write those notes then?
I don't know why he writes the notes. I also don't know why he's going after why he's writing notes to send to our main detective lady.
Yeah.
Considering what he wants, it doesn't make any sense as far as I'm concerned. In a why, okay, this is very much borrowed from the Zodiac killer. So why does he write those letters? Well, it's because he wants credit. He wants people to know he did it. He's proud of it. and he wants like all these seemingly unrelated murders. It's like, no, I actually did those. I did all these because I'm the greatest and I'm smarter than you and I'm better than you. That's kind of the psychology of that. But in this case, we are dealing with someone who will eventually find is not even really the mastermind of this whole plan, because at least in his view and in the movie's view, because the movie makes it quite clear that the devil is just real, and it's not just the ravings of one insane person who believes in the devil literally and it worships the devil. Because there's literal magic. That's sort of what I'm basing this on. So he is sort of doing things at the behest of Satan. That's what we're going to find out later. Sorry for jumping ahead, but that's
no, spoilers.
Spoilers. He's doing things at the behest of Satan, so it's not really an ego thing for him to write the letters. You know what I mean? He's worshiping this evil, this force of evil in the world, and doing what it wants on its behalf to kill people. We'll talk about the motivation because it's garbage.
Right. Do you think there were any clues before he outright says it, or the movie outright says it?
Clues as to what?
That he was a Satanist.
They just assert it a number of times throughout the movie. He makes it quite clear from his behavior that he worships Satan, I would say. There's a lot of talk of the man downstairs. There's a lot of talk of
True.
You're not just talking about because
I'm just trying to think of any hints earlier than that were more subtle. I mean, the man downstairs is already, I think, a dead giveaway.
Yes, I think before that, because I think he starts talking about the man downstairs when he gets caught and she goes in to interview him. I think before that, he's rambling on tape before she goes to meet him, and they say something about how he's a Satanist. Then it might have come in the letters, little things like that, little clues. There's definitely like occult imagery in his cipher. You know what I mean? Like, the upside down
me,
triangle
it was
thing.
kind of surprising. Like, oh, he's a Satan. What?
Where I can definitely agree with you is that they just kind of asserted it as true, and then it was just treated as true now. And then when you hear him talk, it's like, oh, I guess he is. It was a little strange.
It's not fluid. Yeah, it's not smooth.
There's something.
It just feels abrupt.
I remember when they first said, "Oh, he worships the devil." I'm like, oh, okay. Does he? What are you basing that off of? I guess it's because there's not a lot of connective tissue in the movie. In some areas, it's like, well, how did you make that conclusion? I don't know. You just did with evidence that I didn't see. Things like that. It's not. You can't play along at home like you can with a good detective mystery.
Yep.
With a good detective mystery, you see all the clues that are necessary. In this, I don't feel like that's the case. I'd have to really go over it with a fine-tooth comb, but I definitely got the impression that they assumed things based on moments I didn't see or evidence I didn't see. But anyway, the movie treats him like a full-blown. Well, I actually want to talk with you later about what actually constitutes a Satanist, because this movie treats it as someone who worships the devil like it's a thing, and they want to help do the bidding of that thing. They worship it as a quote unquote higher power, so to speak. So why does he write the letters? Because the devil certainly wants to keep doing what he's doing. So why write the letters? I don't know.
The Zodiac Killer.
Yeah,
Easter egg.
When the Zodiac Killer does it, there's a reason. Because he's like, he wants credit. He needs people, because the work he's proud of, he wants people to know. There's an ego thing there. Is there an ego thing with this guy? I guess it's not clear what he wants, because he keeps doing things later in the movie that seem to go against what he's trying to do, which is to keep doing this. Like he wants to keep, and he keeps trying to, he's leading the main detective, or not the main detective, but one of our main character detective on a tour of clues to solve the mystery. Why does he want her to solve the mystery? I mean, I don't know. The ego thing doesn't work for me as well when it's none of this is, he's not the mastermind behind any of this. He's kind of a lackey. He's a weird doll maker servant of the actual mastermind. That's the implication by the end of the story. So like, why is he writing all these letters? I don't understand.
Yep. We don't exactly get any backstory on him either. Why is he exactly? How did he end up in this uh, servitude to the devil or anything like that? I think that's one of the more. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we get like an extensive exposition onto the mother being the servant, but we don't exactly get a story on him,
No.
which could have shed some light whether these letters were an ego thing or not.
Or you know, because there's a lot of angles you could make sense of that. It could be an ego thing, like he's kind of doing this because he wants to show people what he's done. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Okay, so here's
Anyway,
the thing.
we slice it. It's stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's think about it. Let's just for the sake of argument, he's just doing what the devil tells him to do, because that seems to be more or less the case, right? Why does the devil, you know, we should save this because I want to get into what he's even after, what he's doing, why he's doing any of this shit, because it's so dumb. It's terrible. Anyway, he's sending letters. That's the only reason that the FBI has any reason to believe, other than a general weirdness, to connect all of these murder suicides together. But there's never any evidence of an outside party. There's no evidence of forced entry in the houses. There's no other DNA there. So whoever is, and how is he forcing these people to murder suicide themselves? You know what I mean? Is he just very persuasive? What's going on here?
I had a little bit of a theory somewhere midway through the movie that it was hypnotism.
That would have been better. That would have been better than what they did. You know, like, because what they did is really dumb. We'll get to it. Yeah. So that's one assumption, is that he's hypnotizing them into, he's somehow using hypnosis, some sort of mind control thing.
Oh, I just remembered. Doesn't the boss say at some point, it's not voodoo magic, but it literally is.
It is literally essentially devil magic, whatever you want to call it.
He does explicitly say at some point, like, how is he doing this? It's not voodoo magic, but
okay, so that goes some way to answering the question. No one else in this world seems to know that sort of magic exists.
Yeah,
even though it clearly does, this is not something people are aware of.
I'm surprised he didn't suggest hypnotism. No one did, to be honest.
Yeah, no one. They just sort of one option they go to is like, oh, maybe he's just very persuasive. They kind of say it.
That's all you have.
Yeah, and that's kind of a funny joke at the time, because you're trying to wrap your head around it. And well, I was intrigued at first when I heard this, because I was like, ooh, that's a very strange case. How could that make sense? And the brain thinks about like, how does he convince them to, you know, does he threaten? You know, the brain, the mind starts racing, trying to think of, like, okay,
maybe
how could this
so horrible? Yeah, stuff like that.
Maybe he threatens to torture them if the husband doesn't put them out of their misery. You know, there's all sorts of weird things you could do to make sense.
Threaten the mum in the letter that he sends to the main character. I'm pretty sure in that little letter that he sends, like that.
Are you talking about the mom?
No, the birthday card. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in the birthday card, he threatens the mum, which is why the main character doesn't tell the boss that she got the letter. But thanks to that letter, she deciphers the code.
That's okay. So he's... I hate that whole sequence too. We're coming up on it. But
sorry for getting ahead.
That's all right. So we established that, yes, string of otherwise unrelated murder suicides, except for that a person is claiming responsibility for them, but there's no evidence, so we don't know how he did it and all that sort of stuff. somewhere in here, I suppose it's after, or at one point she's asked to look at all the files and all the pictures, all the evidence they have, and just, use her big old psychic brain to see if she can come up with anything. Nothing comes to her. And so her boss is like, hey, let's go out for a drink. And this is one of the like little moments of levity that I quite liked. She's like, oh, sorry, I don't drink. And he's like, no, that's fine. I'll drink. And then you tell me things. And so I'm like, okay, I like the boss. He's, funny at least. And then the boss, they're discussing the case. They're running theories about how it could be possible, how he could be doing this, but they don't really have any answers yet. He gets a little too drunk and he's like, oh, I guess you have to drive me home. And so she drives him home and he's like, oh, the lights are on. I'm busted. And like there's little details like this that, I kind of like him a little bit, or at least he's understandable, relatable in some degree. He's
Make
like,
him the main character.
If only. That would be one of several choices that would help this, if not fix it. And she's like, well, he's like, oh, well, my wife and kid are up, so that means you can come meet them. And she's like, do I have to? And he's like, yeah. I love the way he says, yeah, like, of course you do. Like, you have to. Like, why would you ask? Anyway.
That question kind of bugs me. It's just like, why would you ask that? That's so rude.
Yeah. I mean maybe it's just because
wouldn't you just say, if you don't want to talk to them, what about say, oh, I'm busy, like maybe another time.
It's late,
that kind of thing. Yeah,
it's late. I really gotta get home.
Do I have to?
It's like
that sounds like a teenager.
Exactly. That's how I feel. But I like his reaction anyway. He's like, yes, you have to. And so they go inside, and then this is the scene where the little girl says hi to our main character, and she says nothing. And it's very strange. No one treats her like she's weird, but she's so weird. Anyway, and she's like, hey, you should come to my birthday party. It seems like an off thing, but it's going to be important. She has a birthday coming up. What? And
that's annoying. All right,
it is very annoying. It is very annoying that they don't go, oh my god, little girls are getting killed on their birthdays.
Specific birthdays. Oh no, how about we keep track of said birthdays?
My daughter has a birthday coming up. It's going to be on that same day. It's unreal that they never have that thought. It's crazy. But anyway, her birthday's coming up. We don't really know the significance of that yet, but we will. I believe there's nothing especially important that gets said here. Eventually, main character lady goes back to her house, which is oddly cabin-esque. Anyway, she goes there and she's at her desk thinking or whatever. She hears a weird noise and she looks outside. Ooh, and there's a dark, spooky figure in the woods. Like, uh-oh, that's weird. She could call the police. She doesn't. She runs out into the dark woods
with a gun.
Gun. Yeah. At least she has the gun. That's good.
Yeah.
But she just runs after her. And then, oh my god, what do you know? Someone's actually in the house. It was a trick to get her outside. Oh my god, that's really spooky. That was a trailer spooky moment that they showed.
This scene I thought was, the sound effects, the camera work was pretty good. But again, we're talking about writing, and the writing is
yeah. So why is any of this happening? We'll get to. She runs back and she runs outside with a gun to see what that dark figure in the woods was, instead of just calling the police or yelling like "get off my property" or whatever. She goes out running, looking for I don't know what she was aiming for, like what she was trying to do exactly. But then while she's outside, oh my god, that spooky person is now in the house, which means he must have sprinted around the opposite direction of the house to get in. I don't know. It's just kind of funny to imagine how quickly he has to move for this scene to be possible. But he runs all the way around and goes into her house while she's outside. She looks back through the window. Oh my god, someone's in my house. Then she runs back into the house. She does an awful job of clearing the house once again. So if anyone was trying to kill her, they would have got her. She doesn't clear the corners or anything like that. She finds a letter in an envelope on the desk and sits down to open it. And I'm like, you don't know if he's still in the house. He could still be in the house.
Yeah. I had that impression as well. Like, hang on. There's still creepy music going on.
Yeah.
that might be an indication that he might still be in there.
And the way the shot is framed, it's a big widescreen frame.
Exactly. We can see everything.
We can
And
see the background. It's like, oh, he could be lurking around that corner. And I actually
exactly.
I like
He
that
does
shot.
this. Yeah. He does this several times in the movie where there's multiple shots where it's it's really wide and you can always see maybe it's a person or something behind it.
Corridor. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was very well nicely done. I wish I could compliment it more, but the way it's shifted around.
I will say this is going to be a point of praise. He did this a lot early on, where, like I said, a character was in one side of the frame, and there's a big expanse of nothing behind them, or a dark, hallway, something like that. And it's like, could something be lurking there? Is someone going to come running out of that? You're kind of on edge just with basic framing like that. And he does pay it off later. I was worried he wouldn't, but he did. And there's a moment later where we're watching the Asian female detective in the car, and then the nun comes from off screen, and it's like, oh, okay, we finally did something where there was a big expanse of empty space behind the character, and something.
Funny thing about that scene,
Yeah.
the audience didn't notice it the first time, but then there's the second shot, and then they definitely do notice. Like I noticed it earlier, so I was kind of proud of myself for noticing. But hey.
At least as a visual setup and payoff, he keeps you on edge with that framing, and he does have something happen in that kind of shot later in the movie. So at least in that regard, you get a point. You got a little gold star for that.
Yay! Small victories.
It's something,
Yeah,
that sort of thing isn't. You don't get that a lot. Even from other, decent horror movies. It's like it was a nice little device, and I like the way it kind of keeps you on edge.
Yep.
I feel like the cinematographer and the editor, they're all working to try to make this as scary as possible, and they're doing a pretty good job. But there's only so much good work you can do when the story doesn't make any sense. But like I said, she gets back into her house. She starts opening that letter, even though she hasn't checked to see if the creepy person is still in the house. And he could just get her at any time. But I guess he doesn't want to kill her. He just wants to write her a note that I forget exactly what it says, but it's the note.
It has numbers in it that aren't coded, like a 6 and 6 and a 6, I think, like a cross.
Cipher type thing, yeah.
And thanks to that, she breaks the cipher. I don't think she would have. Did she break it before, or was it?
No, she did not break it before. That's how she broke it. So he sends her a letter. It has a birthday card. Is that the one that has a birthday card?
Yes, that was the birthday card. It did say on the front of it, "Do not open till
January 14th."
Oh, January 14th.
Yeah, or whatever, on the 14th.
But he's obviously going to open it because
Yeah, so she opens it early. He clearly knows she's going to open it early. That's just kind of a cheeky. Don't open this until this date thing. And it's a little kitty birthday card, like a 9-year-old birthday card. And it's got the cryptic messages and stuff in it. We don't know what to make of it, but she uses it to solve the cipher. So this is going to be the first of many moments where the only reason we solve the case is because Nick Cage wants them to solve it. That's the only reason. He's leading. He's giving her a trail of breadcrumbs to him. He could just go talk to her at any time. He clearly wants to talk to her. Why he's trying to lure her in, I have no idea. She doesn't even share with her superior officer that she got this card from a weird stranger that was in her house in the middle of the night. She doesn't tell him.
I gave this movie a 3 out of 10, and I was thinking maybe I was a little harsh. As we talk more about this, I think that score is deserved. Good Lord. Nothing. You're exactly right. She does not solve this case. Nick Cage basically helps her out. If not for him, none of this would be possible. There's no competence to the main character at all.
Not especially, no. I mean, she makes a couple of okay observations. I mean, obviously she has the skills necessary to decipher the code once he's kind of helped her out a little bit. And that isn't nothing, right? Because that does require some skill, and there's some things she does that aren't completely stupid. Like when she gets that letter, she puts gloves on to open it. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, thank
Yeah.
you for doing that. But then, hey, does she give that to the FBI? No, she doesn't. She treats it like it's evidence, only to not share it with anybody. Why?
Because of the threat inside, I think.
What did the threat say exactly?
That she'll hang the mum by her milkers or something like that. Something like that.
Really? Was that what it said? I can't
Something
remember.
like that. I remember some kind of threat against her mum. I watched it like 2 or 3 days ago. I think it was on Saturday. Friday. I watched it Friday. Yeah, I do remember there being some kind of threat in there. If you tell anyone else, well, I'll end your mum, basically, something like that. Said in
Okay.
in very obscene way.
So let's think about that for a minute.
Hmm.
The FBI was getting nowhere with this case, but they didn't even know it was a case if it weren't for Nick Cage telling them it was a case and claiming credit for it. So Nick Cage wants them to know that, hey, all these murder suicides, this is my and or the devil's doing. So you got to pay attention and notice that. Also, they brought on this new girl who is connected, who we'll find out is actually deeply connected to this case, but she hasn't gotten any closer to solving it yet. And apropos of nothing, essentially, Nick Cage sends her a letter saying, "Cease your investigations, or I'll kill your mom." And
I don't think it's that. I think it's about the letter specifically. Don't tell. I'm not. I can't
Don't-
exactly remember. Don't tell anyone about this letter. I think it was that.
okay, why? And why wouldn't she just tell them about the letter? Okay. So if I'm
How was he supposed to know whether she shared it or not as well?
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't know, because if it were me, right, and I got a letter like this guy has targeted me specifically, I'd be like, I'd say to my boss, "Hey, he targeted me
He threatened
specifically.
my mom. Please put her in
Yes,
protective
we'll put
custody.
her in protective custody. Obviously, you can do that. The mom lives alone, so it's not part of his MO to go kill her in terms of the whole family murder suicide thing. It seems like an unrelated. You would just say something.
Yeah, and I thought like that threat. Oh, maybe that's a clue as to how he does his business. Maybe he blackmails people into murder suiciding themselves. But
I get
that wasn't the case.
no,
either.
that wasn't the case.
I thought that was like a massive key. Like, oh, maybe it's blackmail. Is that what you're suggesting, Phil? No, it isn't.
Yeah, so the only reason she cracks the code is because he gives her a hint, essentially. He gives her a hint to crack the code, essentially, to help her along. Simultaneously be like, don't tell anyone about this letter. Like what? Here's a clue to help you out in the case, but don't tell anyone I gave it to you, or I'll kill your mom.
What else did it say in the letter? I can't remember, honestly.
I don't remember exactly what the wording is. It's all cryptic.
It's all gibberish, to be honest.
Yes.
Nothing like really, really specific. The only like specific information I got from that letter was the threat to the mom. There was definitely a threat of some kind. In that letter.
I'd have to. I can't remember the exact wording, but the gist is he's helping her along with the case because ultimately he wants her to solve it.
Right, but was that letter intentional for him to? Did he want the cipher sold, or was he just creeping her out with letters? and threatening her.
I assume no one sends a cipher hoping that they'll never solve it. You know what I mean? It's like a
Right.
test. It's like a puzzle
But
thing.
no one solved the other ciphers, right?
No,
Apart
and
from
so
her, and she got this specific letter with numbers.
as a
No, so
kind
you
of
have
clue.
we have to assume this specific birthday gift was to solve the ciphers.
It was to help, right? Because there's like a
Right.
666 involved in it, right? And then she uses that. She starts looking into occult symbolism, and again, the connective tissue is very weak or kind of hidden in the cut in this movie, so you don't quite understand exactly how all the dots get connected. But basically, he gives her a clue, and then now she's able to solve the cipher. So when they get a call that another murder suicide has happened, actually has happened a while ago,
A
and
month
they
ago,
just found it.
specifically.
Yes,
Yeah.
they just found it. And that's a little
Oh,
contrived.
that's a contrivance. Yep.
Yeah, but
We're spotting plenty of those.
it just so happened that they were supposed to go out of town, I think was the implication. And so no one noticed that they were gone for a whole month, I
To
guess.
Disney World or land.
Yeah, Disney World land. Exactly. And so, that's convenient that the family he targeted that he has to kill on a very specific day just so happened to be planning on going on a trip. Or did he fake that? Did he fake they're planning to go to Disneyland thing? I don't see why he would. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Another family has turned up dead, and there's another clue with another cipher on it this time, and she uses what she's learned about his cipher to solve this one. And it says something. I don't remember what.
None of these. Yeah, that's disappointing, isn't it? All these ciphers, and they're not particularly memorable. The only thing that sticks out to your movie is the ending. It's not exactly that the ciphers are helpful, to be honest. How do they help in solving the case? Exactly.
So
Do they lead to the doll?
Yeah, they lead to the doll. So this one, I don't remember the exact wording, but they used the clue that she decoded from the cipher that she only decoded because he gave her the clue to help decode it. This clue says something about the lone survivor of a previous murder-suicide case. There was the daughter just happened to not be home, but the husband still killed the wife and himself. And so now that girl
and the priest as well, right?
and
Was it that one?
Yeah, there was a priest involved, something like that. And now that girl is in a psychiatric hospital because of the trauma of her parents, murder-suiciding themselves. But she's the only survivor in this string of weird happenings. And so this clue says something about the farmhouse where it took place. So that leads our main character and her superior officer, whom she does not tell about the letter she got, by the way, even though she obviously could. There's no way he'd know.
Like
nothing changes.
Yep. Even with that threat, protective custody, you could easily tell him. Yep.
Yeah, but she doesn't. She just says, "I just had a hunch" when explaining how she deciphered the code. She's just like, "Well, I had a hunch," and he's like, "Okay, sure." And the other thing that bothered me is no one ever checked, like, how do we? Okay, she has a hunch about how to decode it, and then has the results, words written down. That's their clue. And he never goes like, "Hey, can we like double check that with another one of our sort of like cryptography people," or whatever the right word is? People who study codes and stuff like that. People who've been trying to figure out this code for a while. It's like, hey, why don't you show them how you solved it, and they can double check the results, and the whole show your work type thing.
Exactly. They have to be suspicious, and she's been on the case for what?
A week,
maybe 2 days, a week,
2 days,
and she's solving this unsolvable cipher. Come on, there has to be something to it.
Yeah, you would be like, you would want her to show her work because that would reveal something. Not it would reveal something psychologically of how the cipher is put together.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If it's an obscure Russian military cipher, like whatever it is, like an old archaic German cipher from World War II, whatever it is, it would say something about the person who's using it.
Maybe a satanistic ritual.
Yeah, if it's satanic in nature, that would say something as well. These
okay,
are all,
and we've got it down. We've got a profile. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
all these things matter. I don't know. I've watched too much Criminal Minds and Mindhunter and these kind of things.
No.
That they show no interest in any of the real meaty detective work that goes into catching a serial killer. And it's so annoying.
That was exactly what I. In my initial criticalist review, I did mention that there's no real detective work in this film. It's just ciphers and guesswork, hunches with some doors, and it's all disappointing, incredibly so.
Yeah, especially in the detective mystery aspect, which you can't just ignore that, because that is most of the movie. The movie is a mystery, and there are detectives trying to solve it. That's most of the story.
I hate how they introduce the scene, because at first it sounded interesting, murder suicide. It's just like, ooh, there's no forensical evidence of him even entering the apartment. Okay, but in that specific circumstance, she's not going to investigate the scene necessarily, because there is no evidence of the serial killer. So it's a bit disappointing in that sense, because there's no real crime scene investigation. It's all about the ciphers at that point and what he's leaving behind.
Well, even if
not
there
the
was
scene itself.
if there were no physical evidence, I mean, obviously, if there were physical evidence, the forensic science aspect would be interesting too, in a different sort of way. If you want to have it be that there's no physical evidence, there's still profiling, which is how they caught serial killers. Is you study their behavior and try to figure out exactly a pattern of behavior that is in keeping with all the evidence we have from interviews and stuff. That's what the whole book Mindhunter is about all his experience interviewing serial killers and studying cases and consulting on cases based on behavior. But this movie's not really interested in the behavior or the psychology either, and in the end it's not really interested in a non-supernatural explanation of how this could even happen.
Yep.
You have no idea that it could be magic, but by the end, it's just oh, they're doing it with magic. And it's well, that's lame. That's not an answer that I was even aware was in the cards.
Yep. Okay.
The clue sends them to the farmhouse where the old farmhouse where the one girl managed to, by chance, not be there on the day when the murder-suicide happened. So she's survived. They go to that house. They stumble around with some clues. There's X's marking the spot, sort of thing, and that leads
with a crucifix. Would a Satanist do that? Really?
Yeah,
hide it under. Was it upside down? Is that the intention?
Well, I mean, it's on the floor, so it would only be upside down from a certain perspective anyway. It's
right.
It didn't appear to be upside down. Well, it doesn't really make sense that he would use a crucifix because he buried it there.
All right. Imagine if you're Yahtzee Germany and you put a communist sickle and hammer to put all your, I don't know, stolen paintings that you stole from World War II or something like that. I don't know how to make this analogy.
I feel in the frame, because it's on the ground, the crucifix, and the way the shot is framed from above, I suppose the crucifix was upside down from the camera's perspective, but it wouldn't have been upside down from the character's perspective. So, you know what I mean? Nor from the perspective of the person who put it there. So it's kind of,
strange. Either way, I just don't think a Satanist would use a crucifix to mark the spot.
No,
I really don't think so.
Not unless they were specifically going to put it upside down or whatever, do their,
Yeah, exactly. So
something subversive with it. It was very strange. I didn't quite
subvert the symbol in some way.
Yeah. I mean, there's already a sort of, not to get too technical on the symbolic front, but there's already something happening there with the X's marking the spot. Because, you know what I mean?
I mean, you could place it in an X position, maybe.
Yeah, something. You could do something.
Do something, Oh, well. Whatever. Anyway, they find the doll.
They find the doll, and now we've introduced these hyper-realistic dolls that they take to some guy to inspect at the
Was
FBI.
really creepy about them
Was
as
really
well.
creepy, almost like he was fascinated by the dolls. He's like, "This is really good doll work," or whatever he says.
I was like, okay, he's definitely involved in this somehow.
No, he's just a weirdo who is
Yeah.
impressed by these weird dolls. So the
The
strangest thing about them is, other than that they have a strange likeness to
the
this
girl.
doll has a strange likeness to the girl who survived. Um, it's it's made out of like real. It has like real human hair in it and all sorts of weird shit. It's really creepy. And inside the head of the doll is like a not a cylinder, like a spherical metal ball that's
Mhm.
hollow, and it appears to be like, I don't know, magnetic or something.
When you hit it, it makes a specific ding, like noise.
It has a strange
Uh,
sort of sonic quality
yeah.
to it, and that's like the doll's brain, but like
Brain. Okay,
that's what
sure.
they call it, but it's empty, and they make a point of saying that it's empty, but it's very strange. We don't really know
Yeah.
what that means yet. It doesn't seem to cohere with anything that came before it, but okay.
Yep.
There's a
It
weird
does seem to give the main character a slight headache whenever they ring it. That there's kind of like a shot of her. I'm
Yep.
remembering
Oh,
something.
yeah, because
But yeah.
I think this is when like they flash images of like a snake in red light on screen. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Well remembered.
There's a couple random flashes of kind of
Uh,
purely symbolic, not really.
oh, wait a minute. Was that supposed to be the serpent from Adam and Eve?
Well, I mean, there's always
Is that what it's supposed to be?
well, the snake is often associated with sort of satanic, devilish
Right.
things. I mean, obviously, the snake in red light is obviously supposed to be a symbol of something dark. We'll just leave it at that. But how it's exactly relevant to the story, other
We
than it
don't
just
know
is
yet.
like a weird impressionist
Right.
sort of thing.
The thing
I,
about that, about the snake, I don't think technically in the Bible, the snake is never stated as the devil, quote unquote. That's an idea from Paradise Lost from John Milton, whose work was so popular, people keep mistaking it for it to be canon to the Bible. I mean, imagine writing a work of fiction so good you think it's canon to the Bible. That's pretty awesome. But
yeah,
no, the snake has a loose connection.
like
Yeah.
Dante's, Divine Comedy and all that sort of
Mhm.
stuff. It's all like loosely, it's part of an overall picture, right?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of symbolic coherence between the things that are canon and not canon,
Mhm.
in those sort of cases. But obviously there's something serpent like. I mean, because there's also more than one serpent in the Bible. There's
Yeah.
leviathans and snakes and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clearly, in this story, the snake symbol pops up a couple times, but it doesn't have any real obvious connection to the story, except as a sort of like it's a vibes thing. It's
Yeah. All these symbols, I just feel like they're I don't know, like a surface level understanding of them. You know what I mean?
This movie is absolutely thematically incoherent. Well, there's more to say about it later, but in terms of
Steeper
its
surface. Yes, it was.
understanding of what the devil is as a character, and what it, and it's awful. All of
Yes.
that stuff is probably the worst
We'll
stuff in the
get to it.
movie. Yeah,
Yes, we'll get to it. Oh, I
and
can't wait.
it becomes
Yep.
really clear by the end just how incoherent it is. That's the word I keep coming back to. Nothing in this movie comes together in a
Yes.
meaningful way, as far as I'm concerned. They find this doll and they're like, "Huh, that's weird." I don't even remember like where that takes them in terms
Yeah.
of they're
That
obviously looking for someone who's built these dolls, right?
yes.
So a doll maker, someone who has skills, but they don't really explore that in a sort of
Yeah.
psychological sense either.
And with the bowl making that sound, that's when I definitely thought it's gotta be hypnotism. It has to be hypnotism. It's
Yeah.
gotta be. Yeah.
Well, I suppose it kind of is, but not not hypnotism as we understand it and how it
Yeah.
exists in the real world. Hypnotism in a much more occult, magical sort of demonic way, where it's literally voodoo magic, like the guy says.
Yeah, but now that I think about it, why a sphere that makes a sound? I guess the implication is, like, towards the end scene, that there is some kind of magical mist in them. It's not really hollow.
Yeah, it's like a
why a
void.
bowl? You
I
know?
don't know. It's like a void that can be filled by the evil spirit or something. I don't know.
Stupid.
I don't
Alright.
think the symbols cohere. This is definitely a movie that if people like it, and people who think it's good will argue that, like, symbolically, metaphorically, thematically, maybe even they would go so far as allegorically, that it makes sense. But I don't think it does. I don't think
Mhm.
any of these pieces fit together into a meaningful whole on that dimension either.
Yep. Definitely so. Sorry that I keep interrupting, but let's keep
No,
going.
that's all right.
Oh.
Okay, I'm refreshing my the order of operations here from Wikipedia. Lee sees the violent psychic flashes when they interact with it, and the examiner assisting them admits he thought he heard his ex-wife's name while near the doll. Despite Carter's skepticism, Lee theorizes that each family received a similar doll from Longlegs, and he's been infusing the orbs within each doll with some sort of evil energy that can possess or influence those near it. And he's just like, what the fuck are you basing that on? You know, which fair.
I mean, it's just a theory.
And then they go to visit the lone survivor, because that's kind of a dead end, other than, okay, well, it shouldn't be a dead end. It shouldn't be. And a better story that's more concerned with solving this case with detective work would be like, okay, who would make these dolls? What do we know about a person who has the skill to make these dolls? Did they, I don't know, did they, like, is it someone who works in, like, clothing like, I don't know, like, there's also, you could explore who would have the skills and I don't know, supplies necessary to, like, build these kind of things. Like,
Yeah,
what is this thing made out of? Where can you buy this metal? What kind of person would have
exactly.
this?
You have plenty of forensic evidence. You've told us that this doll is superbly made. What does that imply? They don't kind of pick up on these pieces, to be honest. They kind of imply, yeah, the magic influence. That's what the main character kind of picks up on. Like, maybe it's some kind of
This
influence that's
this
causing this
should
murder
tell you
suicide.
more
Yeah,
about the psychology of the person, and that should lead
yeah,
to a profile which should make him easier to catch, to actually find the person. But it doesn't, because they're not interested in that. They're more interested in, like, just being like, they're having their hand held as he shows them, like, come on, it's this way, I'm over here. Um, and then Lee and Carter, they go to visit Kiernan Shipka's character, the sole survivor of that one murder suicide, and she's at this mental hospital.
hmm
And when they get there, they find out from the attendant that she's usually quite morose and sullen and keeps to herself and quiet,
like, yeah,
but
they're
she's been
like,
in really good spirits after she just had a visitor recently, and she never gets visitors. Um, and they're like, okay, well, who was the visitor? Do you keep logs? And he's like, well, we have a notebook. And I think she even asks, like, did you ID?
yeah.
Do you ID
And
people? He's like,
I kind of love that exchange. It's just like he's just like, that'd be actually a good idea,
that sounds
actually.
like
But
that would be a good idea, but we don't currently do that. Which is, and I think that kind of works because there's no real need,
Mhm.
arguably,
For
for
an
that,
ID, yeah,
anyway. Because if you're just going to visit someone in a
yeah.
place like
And
that,
it's like he's in front of FBI agents.
yeah.
They're asking questions, and he's just like, "Huh, if they're here, maybe we do need a more of a bigger security." And that's why he says, like, "Oh, that's a
Yeah.
good idea."
So you get a little half a gold star for that
Yeah,
scene.
I
It's
I, I
mildly
chuckled at
amusing.
that scene. Yeah, it made me laugh.
She looks in the logbook of the person, and they signed in. They obviously didn't need to provide an idea, but the person who signed in, her visitor, signed our main character detective's name. Harper, was it? It's
Lee
not
Harker.
Lee Harker. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, this is the clue. This is the guy. He must have come and visited her. And so that completely changed the demeanor of the girl in the mental hospital. There's a little echo of Renfield in Dracula in this.
Huh.
Like the person trapped in a mental hospital,
Yeah.
and Dracula like
I
comes
see
to
that.
visit him, and he keeps like. Have you read Dracula?
I had to study it in
I like it.
college.
I think it's
Well,
good.
do I like it? I don't know. It's weird because it's like, oh, cool. This book about Dracula stuff. This will be awesome. And the English teacher is like, did you know that vampires are a sexual metaphor? And I'm like, I never put the two together. That vampires are supposed to represent this sexual thing. Never in my mind would I have interpreted it that way. But okay.
There's a tendency. I feel like obviously there's something of that's true, but it's weird
Right.
to reduce it to that, or to
Yeah,
make that the
that's what I felt.
primary thing you're concerned with.
Mm.
You know what
I
I mean?
love
Like,
Van Helsing in it too.
oh
The
yeah,
book is cool. Yeah.
he's really good. Anyway, I like it. I like the characters. But yeah, there's a little something of that. So she's trapped up in this mental hospital, and this creepy guy comes to visit her, and that kind of completely changes her demeanor, because she's kind of lost her mind a little bit in the aftermath of what happened to her. And then
Mhm.
she goes on this weird rant when they interview her, where
Yeah,
she basically implies that she has a sort of affinity with Longlegs and is not going to give him up. I think she's one of the first people to mention the man downstairs. Is that true? She says some weird stuff here. I remember that.
very weird stuff. She even
She
threatens
basically
the main
says, like,
character.
if
Yeah.
Longlegs, I don't think she says it like this, but like, if he told me to kill you, I'd do it. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, she's on
Okay.
his team. She's not going to give us any information that would be
We need
helpful.
to take her in right now. She knows something.
Yeah,
Definitely
you might think you could press her more, but maybe because she's
in this state.
unwell, that you wouldn't know if what you get is reliable, or whether you can get anything out of her. It's unclear.
Right, but based on what happens to her in the future, you could at least say, okay, we need an FBI team on her. She definitely knows. We need to watch her closely.
Yeah,
you know,
you would think there'd be more questioning, like, well, why now? Why is
You-
he coming to visit her now? What's different?
yeah, and you are threatening an FBI like
There's that.
vagueness
that
about
as
it.
well.
You are threatening an FBI officer. You are being kept an eye on closely.
Yeah, but they're not really interested in any of that sort of stuff.
No,
They're not.
they aren't.
No, because the other thing is, in a better story, the detectives would be like, okay, he hasn't visited her in years. Why now? What's different now?
I kind of lost track. Why is she alive?
Oh, it was mentioned that she was supposed to be at home, but she wasn't on the day he showed up to plant the doll, do the whole murder suicide thing to her
that's-
family. She wasn't there by chance. She was somewhere else. That's how
Then how
she
do
survived.
we do? She's the girl where the father goes around with the axe, right? And the priest.
I believe so. Yes.
I thought that was from a kid's perspective. That shot.
Maybe it was from the doll's perspective, or maybe it was just how he decided to shoot the scene.
Actually, no. Maybe it was from the doll's perspective.
There's a couple shots from the doll's perspective.
Yeah. Okay.
There's like a veil over top of it, and then they pull the veil off, and it's a POV shot from the doll. That happens at least once or twice. So maybe that's
because the only survivors that we have is the main character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna find out she
and this girl, because she wasn't there. Why didn't this happen to other girls if they weren't in the house or anything? Like, there's a bunch of victims, and it's interesting that our main character is the main survivor, and this one.
Well, our main character only survived because for some reason. Well, we're gonna find out. We might as well just say it now. We're gonna find out that main detective lady, Lee Harker, was going to be killed by this Longlegs serial killer in the same fashion as the others, but her mother
Made a
pleaded
deal.
for her life and offered to help the killer kill more people in exchange for letting her daughter live, and that worked for some reason.
Okay,
And
let's not. Okay, that already had. Let's unpack that later. That is a bomb.
we'll get
right
into
there.
it, but the reason I
Yes.
mention it now is only to say that that's how she survives. It's not because by chance she wasn't there.
Right. I'm just thinking, like, I'm trying to sniff out a contrivance here of some sort. Like,
I don't
okay, is there any other girls that could be by chance not be in there if there's multiple victims or stuff like that? But I don't
so
think there is one. I'm think I'm digging too much.
I don't see that necessarily as a problem. Okay, so he's very committed to killing them on a certain day because somehow that's meaningful for him.
Mhm.
Why the 14th? I don't. Oh, it's 6 days away from the 14th. I don't know. I don't know why, but the day really matters to him. So, if he got
Oh,
there and the daughter wasn't there, he might as well. He would probably just go ahead with it.
okay.
I assume, and that only happened once. It's not super unlikely.
It's from the 14th because I think he specifically wants to draw a triangle
Yeah, it's
around
always
the calendar.
a certain
That
number of days from the 14th.
Yeah, I think it's just because he drew a calendar because he drew a triangle on the calendar. I think that's
Yeah.
the main which is okay, whatever. But okay, let's go on.
Yeah, so after they talk to her and they don't really get anything, she goes
They
home.
forget to keep an eye on her.
They
Like
don't
you
really
did,
keep
yeah.
an eye on her. It won't really amount to anything, but it probably
Mm.
would have been smart. Doesn't she go home? Doesn't
Lee
our
Har-
main Lee Harker, doesn't she go home to visit her mom?
does the boss tell her to go to him? Are we at that point, or not? Not just yet.
At some point, we get to the yeah. Wait a minute.
He does. He does.
Oh, yeah. Why does she go home? Because she goes home and finds a clue that will be very important, and that they wouldn't be able to solve any of this without. But I can't remember why she goes home.
Did the mom ask her to? Did the
I don't
mom
remember.
ask for a visit? She does throughout the calls.
Yeah, she's talking to
Ask
her
for
mom.
information about the case.
Yeah, she's like, "Hey, what's going on with that? Are you still saying your prayers?" Something.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, we should talk about that. So,
Mhm.
actually, no, we can dive into that when we get to the mom. But eventually, she does go home to visit her mom,
Mhm.
and I don't remember why, but she finds a chest like in her childhood bedroom containing a stack of Polaroid like
Yeah.
pictures, and in them is a picture of Longlegs, because apparently in that opening scene we saw at the very beginning of the movie where Longlegs approaches the little girl, that was our main character when she was a child, and she took a picture of him in that moment.
And she doesn't remember this because reasons.
Yes, okay. So the big reveal here is that, oh my god, when she was a kid, Longlegs almost got her but didn't. Um, Somehow her boss finds out that the mom called in a police report
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, and that's why she said, "No,
saying
you're
that
right."
there was
Yeah,
someone intruder in the home and she shot at
yeah.
him and he got away or something like that. And she's and it happened on near my 9th birthday. She's like, I don't remember that. It's like, maybe you should go talk to her about it. Something like that, right?
Yeah, you'd think the boss would that's when he'd wake up. Okay, maybe I need to keep an eye on mom and this agent. Have I gone too far in involving? They have an involvement in this case somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe I should tread carefully. Maybe I should assign someone else on the job. She's too close to this. That kind of stuff. That kind of conflict. You know, there's
That never
never any of that.
happens, really. No.
Yep.
So she finds out from a Polaroid in her childhood bedroom that she had a close encounter with Longlegs when she
Right.
was a kid.
Right. And I
And
guess
first of
so
all,
far,
he just let him. He just let her take his picture. I don't know why
yeah.
he did that, but setting that aside,
Doesn't Longlegs just casually go to like a grocery store, letting people see him, and he just asks for like the cashier's birthday and stuff like that? Remember that scene?
yeah,
I don't know when that happens.
it's somewhere in here because he gets caught soon after. And they catch him because they use the picture she found in her childhood bedroom to identify him. Like I said, the lack of connective tissue, that all happens off screen. But now they know who he is, and so they track him down pretty quickly, all off screen. But then they find him. He's like near a bus stop or something like that. And he has like a suitcase and some stuff with him, and he lets himself be arrested. That's all the result of her going to her childhood home and finding the Polaroid that she took of him when she was a kid. So, and then he goes and he's perfectly willing to be captured because he what does he want? Because he's leading her. He has this little trail of breadcrumbs, giving her all these clues because he wants her to solve the mystery for some reason. I don't know why. He wants her. I guess he wants her to know what happened. I guess I don't know, or to remember what happened. He could have just told her, but he doesn't. Eventually, he'll have the scene where he meets her face to face in like the FBI.
Well, the actress's heart was 175 beats per minute, don't you know?
So cringe. And they'll have a face to face, but like he was in her house. He could have just talked to her at any time. I don't know why he needs this whole thing to finally have a sit down with her. If that's what he's after. What is he doing? What is he after here? Because he's leading her with these clues for the sake of what? Her solving the case? He doesn't want her to solve the case and stop him from killing more people. That's not something he wants? Question mark. Because eventually he's going to like bang his head against he's going to kill himself, and he thinks he's going to be free or transcend this mortal coil somehow.
Yep.
Because I guess he's getting up there in age, and he's like, my work here is done. I've been serving the devil like a good servant, and now I'm gonna die and be free? Question mark.
Okay. I have a big question. Maybe I need to ask a doctor. But can you end yourself by repeatedly slamming your head? I'm pretty sure you'd sooner get knocked out than actually dead.
I don't have
right?
any doubt that someone as old as this character seems to be, and frail and probably malnourished and all that sort of stuff, if they just really gave themselves a good knock against the thing, it could. I believe you could do it. It would
Okay.
take a certain amount of conviction, obviously, to slam your head that hard. I certainly
Wouldn't
think
the table break? I don't know.
well, I mean, it seemed to be a metal table. I don't have any problem with the logistics of him slamming his head into the table and then dying from it because he's like a weird, old, decrepit man.
I don't know. How old? Okay, you're convincing me with the point that he's old. I didn't know he was that old, but I don't know. That kind of sticks out to me, kind of like, hey, was this the best way they could kill him off? Like maybe he strangles himself with the handcuffs. Maybe I don't know, slamming your head.
You could also do the suicide by cop thing where he like tries to attack her and gets shot for it. You know, like that's a common thing with criminals who want to die, is that they just do something that they know will get a police officer to shoot them.
I mean, the slamming on the head thing just seemed a little lazy to me.
I mean, I thought it was lame. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah. I just thought, okay, is this the best way you could think of killing him off after having his his grand theme, if you will. And they have all that shot of the blood on his face after slamming his. I guess that's why they did it, really, to have
Yeah,
that blood on his face.
I guess
That's it.
so.
Yeah.
I don't really know, but I also don't know why he wanted to kill himself, really.
Yeah, and with such conviction too.
It's like, okay, they're remembering that he kills himself on purpose. He like wants to be caught because he's like done with this now, I guess. Like, I don't understand it. Does
He still has one more victim, right?
Yeah, he's already built the puppet for that one, and it's going to happen that his accomplice, which we'll get to, will deliver it. And does he just like think, that's it, I'm retiring, I'm done now, I'm going to kill myself? Like, is that why he's done? It still doesn't explain why he wants our main character to solve this mystery.
Okay, would the accomplice do the same?
Well, the accomplice doesn't want any of this to stop.
Exactly.
So why does Nick Cage lead the detectives along this trail in order so that he will be captured, have a face-to-face meeting with Harker that he could have had at any point if he wanted to?
Okay, so let's think about this as well in another dimension, I suppose. All that Longlegs does is build the dolls and give out the ciphers. The real important person is the accomplice. Technically, she is the instrument of the kills, not necessarily Longlegs.
They tag team it, but she's arguably the well. I wouldn't. I mean, building the doll with the thing inside of it seems to be part of the magical thing that allows it.
If he just built all the dolls in advance,
yeah, he could just stop.
Yeah,
and maybe that's what they plan to do. It's unclear. I don't know. But why does he want to be caught? The other thing they could have explored and could have been more interesting is if there's a part of him that wants to be caught. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if that's why
guilt.
he's doing it.
Yeah. I mean, the mother definitely feels some guilt, like she's puking in the car. Is there anything with Nick Cage? No, probably not.
Yeah, I just don't believe anything to do with the mom, but we'll get to that. Yeah, he seems to be evil straight through to the bone from the very beginning and at the very end. Like, there's no sort of nuance there. There's no guilt. There's no
He sings
there's
Happy
no
Birthday
evolution.
for 24 minutes. Yeah.
He doesn't get more evil as it goes. He just starts that way and ends that way. He seems to want to, on behalf of the devil, kill little girls because they're beautiful, innocent things, and he wants to destroy them, because it's the most evil thing. Like, that seems to be, the whole family, not just the girl, but like the doll and everything. He has a weird fascination with little girls, apparently.
That's not really that deep, is it, to be honest?
No, he wants to kill them, and what the devil wants is also not that deep. In fact, it's incredibly stupid. But I really want to save that. When it comes to Nick Cage, because that's the end of Nick Cage, he gets the one scene here where he gets to be Nick Cage and go all crazy and give a really over the top
crazy in the car as well, and he was like kind of screaming, and then the sound effect matched his scream. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's relatively neat. In a better movie, I might like it more.
Yes, exactly. Because looking back on it, it's just so hollow,
Yes, I agree. Same with Nick Cage's. He gets to go crazy, and he's being very outlandish and over the top, but in the service of what? Like, the story, I don't understand his character. I'm not learning anything about him. You know what I mean? Like, okay, for example, we get a really crazy performance from the guy who plays Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, but you learn a lot about him. You learn quite a bit about who he is.
Especially from Hannibal Lecter, who's helping profile them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, the whole, like, he's like skinning people so he can wear it as a suit and all that sort of stuff, and like why he's doing it, and the the way he talks to them when they're at the bottom of the pit and everything. Like his crazy, wacky performance
Has some
makes
sort of logic
yeah.
to him. Yeah.
With Nick Cage, it just felt like they told him to go crazy and have fun. You know what I mean? Like, sure, he's going over the top and he's doing crazy things, and he keeps muttering "Hail Satan." He's talking about the man downstairs and talking about bowing down all the way down. It's like, I get it. I get it.
I was like, no, it was before this interrogation scene where the FBI agent told the main character, in the notes, we found out that he's a Satanist. That's not illegal in America, so we can't arrest him for keep hold of him for that or something, blah, blah, blah. And I was like taken aback, like, wait, he's a Satanist?
Yeah, you're right. That's when they assert it as true.
Yeah.
And then moments later, when we do talk to him, he's just saying "Hail Satan" directly. And I'm like, I guess
it just seems edgy, hollow.
Yeah, well, hollow is a better word for it, because this is clearly a trope that Oz Perkins, the director, writer, is interested in, because the devil plays a role in The Blackcoat's Daughter, which is another horror film that he made that I didn't love that either. I was lukewarm on it. It's better than this, I would say. But there's
any of his previous films good, to be honest?
I've only seen The Blackcoat's Daughter. That seems to be his highest rated before this movie, and it's okay. It's not great, but I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it as much as I hated this one. And I felt like it made a bit more coherent sense. It's a little bit, The Shining and meets The Holdovers, in that it's about like a girl who's like staying at prep school over the winter. She's like, she's a holdover in that same sort of the way, but it's a bit more like The Shining, and like weird stuff keeps happening, and there's some mystery in terms of like people who are practicing something occult at this school. That sort of is the gist of The Blackcoat's Daughter. It's still not great, but I do think it's better than this. But the devil, spoilers, shows up in that as well. And I feel like the use of the devil as a figure or as a symbol in that movie made more sense than this one. This one, it does feel very hollow. It's like, it says "Hail Satan," but like we don't really.
You see, he said "Hail Satan."
Yeah. Also, if you're gonna call him the man downstairs, that's way more. It's just more interesting than just calling him Satan. So like when you call him the man downstairs and then you tack on "Hail Satan," it's just like, I got it. I mean, I was already with you. I got it. Yes, you don't. I understand what the man downstairs is. You keep talking about
the director wants to make sure that you know that it's Satan. All right.
Yeah,
you have to know.
It's more interesting. It's more interesting if it's just like what this guy calls him, and he has his own sort of idiosyncratic way of thinking about him. That's just more interesting. Anyway, so we find out he's a Satanist. We find out that he kind of wants to be free now, and then he kills himself. And so that really doesn't bring us any closer to solving the case, nor does it make sense of why he's been leading the detective along this path. But here we are. Now he's dead.
About any accomplices? He says, "Ask your mother."
Ask your mother. Yeah. So clearly he is pointing her in that direction. Why? I don't know why. Honestly, he's a plot device. He's doing all this stuff because our main character needs to be led along this mystery to eventually get the big reveal. Oh my God, my mom's been in on it. Oh my goodness. Like that's the reveal we need to have later, apparently. Need in air quotes. So in order for that to happen, instead of using any actual detective work, we have to make Longlegs' motivations make no sense in order that he can be leaving this trail of breadcrumbs to let her get there eventually. I don't know why. It's not like she had like repressed memories and he was just kind of like pulling threads that were already there to get her to remember something. because she never remembered it. It wasn't a repressed memory. It was just something she had no idea about. And so he's telling her for no reason. I don't.
You could, I guess, to play devil's advocate. Hey, there's a devil joke there, devil's advocate. You could help this scene along by, I don't know, him kind of torturing her in a way with his words, like, "Oh, do you remember when I did this or this?"
Yeah.
Pulling along some specific memory just to drive that little knife a little deeper. Something like that.
He keeps playing it like, oh, at long last we're reunited. It's like you could have gone to visit her at any time. You did. You were at her house and you left a creepy note instead of saying anything. So now when you finally see face to face, it's like, oh, after all these years, here you finally are. It's like, no, that doesn't work. It need, like, if you want that, you need to have him, like, I don't have been in custody for a long time or something like that, or like incapacitated in some sense. Like if he was actually crippled and needed accomplices to keep doing his work, he just built the puppets from his house or whatever. So he actually like needed her to come to him in some way. You could come up with some way of contriving that. Then it could be like, oh, at long last we're reunited. You're kind of like the one that got away in a sense.
Hang on. I just spotted something. There was no forensic evidence of Longlegs in any of the crime scenes, right?
Correct.
Right, but we do see him tying up the mom in the basement.
Yeah.
So,
well, that was
the main character the first child, or did he do other children? And if he did, then he had to have entered the house somehow.
Yeah. So what they imply is that, okay, so in the 70s, he's going to kill our main character who grows up to be the detective, but her mom makes a deal, says, I'll help you kill other people if you let my daughter live. We'll talk about that later. So before that, so after that, he builds the puppets and she is the friendly, not serial killer, creepy face that goes up to the door and says, hey, you've won this doll as a prize from the church ? That's really bizarre, but set that aside for a moment. She arrives with the doll as a gift, supposedly from the church. She's dressed up pretending to be a nun. And so that's the way, that's how they operate. He builds the dolls. He's a normal person, a trustworthy person who brings the doll into the house. The magic doll becomes possessed, or the magic of Satan inside the doll mind controls everyone into killing themselves, and that's their MO. Before that, it's implied that he tried to do it all himself, and he had trouble with the whole like pretending to be a normal person, like saying, oh, it's a gift from the church, because he's such an obvious creepy weirdo.
Right.
So, but like he's shown tying the mom up. He never tied them up before. He never ties them up afterwards. So
no, I'm just wondering how he did it before. Yeah.
I don't know, because I don't know why he's tying up the mom, because he doesn't tie anyone up. It's all magic mind control. He doesn't need to tie them up. So why is he tying them up? I don't understand. I mean, maybe the implication is that that's one of the first times he did it.
Yeah.
As one of the first times he did it, and
it had to have been.
It didn't go according to plan, but he was willing to go, all right, you can join my team and I'll let your daughter live. Which, let's talk about that now.
All right.
Because
we're at that scene where she goes with the Asian lady, right?
Yes, the Asian detective lady takes her to after Longlegs kills himself in custody. He says like, oh, he's asked about the accomplice, and he says, why don't you go ask your mom? So her and the Asian detective lady go to her mother's house. She's looking for her mother inside, doesn't find her anywhere. She looks out the window and sees her mom has just shot the Asian detective lady.
A little before that, we also told that the patient, the girl, killed herself when Longlegs killed himself.
Right. So they're connected psychically or whatever bullshit.
Somehow, yeah, exactly.
It's
We
fine.
never given any information on that. The FBI did not keep an eye on her at all.
It wouldn't have amounted to anything, but you're right. So she was really sullen and morose. She hadn't had any contact with him in a long time. He shows up, and that kind of like rejuvenates her a bit. And then when he dies, she kills herself. So it can't have
Why?
been that he was planning to kill himself when he went to visit her. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. But
what?
no, I'm struggling. No, I'm struggling to understand why she did it though.
I don't know.
Because reasons
they were
is that
psychic.
left up in the air? Yeah, I
They
suppose
were
it is.
connected somehow,
Right.
psychically, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, let's wave that off.
So now
Again,
she's
that's
like,
another problem. Yeah.
she's like, oh, my mom was the accomplice this whole time. So
Mhm.
that's the reveal. Let's talk about that. Well, eventually she confronts her mom, doesn't she? Yeah, like it is revealed that Ruth has been, this is from Wikipedia,
Yeah,
just refreshing my memory.
Okay, yeah, that thank you for pulling up the Wikipedia, by the way. That's a smart idea.
It's
I'm
kind
not
of
very
convoluted,
professional.
this story in a lot of ways.
It needs to keep track of it. The main character goes to the garden, and she has the shotgun to the doll, and that's when she confronts her, not in the front area where she
Right.
shot. So
Right, because
immediately after she,
there's a
yeah,
doll of our main detective lady that's still been around this whole time that the mom has somewhere, and now she's threatening to shoot the mom is threatening to shoot the doll. Wait, no, the main character is threatening to shoot the doll. Who's threatening to shoot the doll? I can't remember.
the mom,
The mom.
the
Why?
mom definitely shoots the doll.
Why? Do you remember?
No, she's not. The main character, obviously in shock, is slowly approaching her.
Yes.
She doesn't know how to handle this. For some reason, we don't know this why, but for some reason she has a shotgun to the doll. Does it work like a voodoo doll? If she shoots the doll, does it kill?
Well, there's some sort of voodoo-ness to it
I
because
think
she
yeah,
shoots the doll, and then like a weird puff of CGI smoke comes out of the back of the head of Harker. So somehow her essence
right.
is in the
What
doll somehow.
what did happen in this? Like she slowly tries. Right, the main character slowly tries to talk her out of it. It's done. It's over. Longlegs ended himself.
Yeah, you can give it up now.
For some reason, she didn't know that Longlegs ended himself, even though
she didn't have
Longlegs.
that. Yeah,
Right. She didn't get the memo, I suppose, of the psychic memo of, oh, stuff is over. You can end yourself now. She shoots the doll, and I think that's supposed to be an implication that the daughter is now free from the voodoo.
but how is
influence?
she under its influence before? That's the thing I didn't get. They're like, you're gonna be free now.
Maybe that's where her
Psychic
hunch
powers.
yeah, is that her? Is the hunch, the psychic powers, the devil doll?
Well, there's nothing satanic in motivation related to her hunches and her gut psychic instincts. They're all like for the sake of.
Does she use that hunch after the shooting of the doll? I mean, that I guess that would. I don't think she does.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's any reason to either. They don't make the strong case that she doesn't have it anymore. If that
Right.
makes
So
sense.
with shooting that doll, what does that gain?
I don't know. She makes it seem like she'll be free or something. She shoots the doll,
Right.
and then a puff of CGI smoke comes out of the back of her head.
But then we return to your question as well. In what way was she influenced? What
Well, she wasn't. That she wasn't being mind controlled
Right.
ever once. That it wasn't even like a cloud that was repressing her memories of something
No,
that she should have
she
remembered.
remembered it, right?
Well, because she didn't remember it because she wasn't there. You know what I mean?
Did
Like,
she remember it after the door?
no, no, because
We're going in circles.
no. Okay, so here's the thing, right? So remember, our main character, when she was a girl, she's had an encounter with Longlegs. From her perspective, there was a creepy guy outside who was like, "Oh, hello, little one.
What's your birthday? Oh,
I'm a
yeah.
weirdo," you know.
Yes.
And she took a picture of him, and that's it, because she had no idea that he came around later to try and attack them, and the mom scared him away with a gun or something like that, or that the mom made a deal. This is not a repressed memory for her, so there's not like a fog of some sort of thing that's causing her to forget. There's none of that. It's just something she wouldn't have had memory of. It's just something that happened that she had no idea. Because why would she remember some random stranger she saw for like 5 minutes once when she was 9?
Just Matters with a $5 just popped in and now caught a spoiler. Gee, thanks, True Pop. Well,
Listen, we are 2 hours into a discussion of a movie. I feel like it's reasonable
to assume we discuss spoilers. Yeah. But fair enough. I'll include it in a title next time. Sorry about that, Justin. But hey, thanks for stopping by and supporting the channel. Goes a long way. Especially because this is hilarious how we're circling around this stupid.
Well, because what happens when there's like a weird puff of smoke that leaves her head when the doll is killed?
And the implication is that it does something, but we don't know what was the effect before the shooting and after the shooting. We don't know.
We don't know. It seems like a very abstract, dreamlike thing that he doesn't have any real reason for including in the movie. I don't know. That's how it feels to me. Let's see if Wikipedia says. Wikipedia's description of this is: Lee races outside to find Ruth shooting the head off a doll resembling a young Lee, causing Lee to faint and lose consciousness. That's all that it says. After that, it is revealed that Ruth has been Longlegs' accomplice ever since Lee's encounter with him. Longlegs returned in the night to attack and subdue Ruth, the mom, forcing her to make a choice: let her daughter be murdered as part of the ritual, or to do his bidding to spare her. So my takeaway from the movie was that it was something she offered, not something he demanded. Like, do you remember? Well, what was your impression? Like, who put forth the idea that, like, hey, help me and she lives? Was that his idea or her idea?
No, I think it was the mom's.
Yeah, I got the impression it was her idea as well. She complied, leaving Lee to be the missing birthday on the triangle. Longlegs has lived in the Harker house basement ever. Oh, he lives in the basement? Sorry, Wikipedia says that,
what?
but I don't remember that.
No,
information.
she was.
Oh, there was a door.
She
to the
was
basement.
looking at the door. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I didn't.
And I remember there being a scene where the main character, I don't know, checks the tea, and she finds some sort of pills. I don't know what it is. I thought maybe it was what's the poison in Breaking Bad called? I can't remember.
Ricin.
Ricin. Maybe it was ricin or something. I don't know, but she says, she looks at it and she says, "Holy fuck, mom," and she puts it down. I was like,
okay, because they kept showing the basement locked and that she didn't go in there, and like there were chances where like she was about to go in there, the main character that is, and Ruth like called her name or something like that. And we have seen scenes of Longlegs in a creepy basement. I didn't realize that was the same basement. I don't know that really adds anything, but okay.
Yeah, that again, it adds to it was right under her nose, kind of thing.
I guess. Like what?
But that's stupid.
What is he leading her to? Why is he leading her to this? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The man downstairs, I suppose there's a connection there because he's literally downstairs. But I don't know, man. So yeah, we find out that she's been helping. Okay, let's think about
this whole scene. This whole scene. Okay, this is immediately when I left the theater, this was one of the biggest flaws that stood out to me. I was like, oh, thank you, movie, for giving me this exposition 101 of the mother being an accomplice. I would not have figured this out
Yeah.
if you would have not explicitly told me from this. It was so stiff, crooked, badly done. Like, okay, here's the story of how the mom was the accomplice. Like, so
Yeah.
far we've been given clues and hints through ciphers, through birthdays, and now here we have like a obtuse scene explaining stuff to us, and that just in that moment I knew I was watching something absolutely terrible.
Yeah, there's no way to deduce it from previous scenes. There's no like that you can't solve this mystery on your own if you're playing along at home. There's no reason to. Like there's no
Yeah.
reason to assume this would be possible. And so now it's just, oh, this is our big reveal. This is our big twist that actually her mom has been helping this serial killer kill people. And the reason, let's talk about the reason.
Yeah.
What you have to assume based on how the movie presents it is that she's basically just a normal mom. That's the implication. She's a normal mom raising a little girl somewhere, I don't know, Midwesty. I don't actually know where this takes place. And one day, a creepy guy comes hanging around the house and he's talking to your daughter, and you go out there and you're like, "What are you doing? Get away from my daughter." That
Like
night, he
anybody
comes
would,
to
yeah.
attack you and he ties you up and he's like, I'm gonna apparently this is some of this happens off screen, but apparently he's like, I'm gonna kill your daughter. And he's like, no, don't kill her. I'll help you kill other people if you let her live. That's her idea, is sort of my impression from the movie is that that was all her idea.
Does
And
Wikipedia say otherwise?
the Wikipedia says, if I remember correctly, Longlegs returned in the night to attack and subdue Ruth, forcing her to make a choice: let her daughter be murdered or to do his bidding to spare her. It's
No,
sort
it
of
was
implied.
it was definitely the. I'm 70% sure it was the mom's idea.
I'm pretty
That
sure it's the mom's idea too. So, like,
she begged for the daughter's life.
yes, and offers to help him kill other girls in order to let. So, who is this person? Like, who would do this? Who am I? What am I supposed to think about this mom? Who is this person that would make this choice?
Cap, she's doing it out of love for her daughter, killing other families. Any insane person would do that.
Yeah, the only way to make sense of it is that she was already insane, but that doesn't. Like,
Yeah,
I don't understand.
but hang on, maybe I'm misremembering. She does. The movie does implicitly say that she was begging for the life. Maybe she said something, "I'll do anything," and then along with say, "How about you kill these families for me?"
You help me deliver this present or whatever. But she knows what she stays and watches, so she knows what happens. She's complicit in the murder of several, if not a dozen, families over the course of a couple decades, all because she has convinced herself that if she went to the police, there's no way that her daughter could be protected, because this is all allegedly in the service of keeping her daughter alive, which maybe you promise that in the moment and then you go to the police
because
with your
in the
daughter.
moment you wouldn't know about the magic.
No, also,
right? You wouldn't know how it works. So obviously,
you're like, sure, whatever. I'll do whatever
sure.
you say.
I'll help you. I'll help you definitely.
Yeah, I can deliver
Like
these dolls for you. Sure, whatever you want, man. And
go
then
to the police. Yeah.
And then you go to the police with your daughter. Yes, that's what you do. Well, because the implication is that he's been living in their basement, since the 70s? Like, how long has he been down there? If that is the same basement, assuming whoever wrote that for Wikipedia is not pulling that out of their ass, what?
I could see it. I could definitely see it. That's the room.
This all reeks to me of someone who thinks they're saying something symbolically, so it doesn't have to make sense literally.
Kind of like what was the movie by Jordan Peele? Get Out, and there was another one.
Oh, Us. Us is the big one.
Us
That's
is the big one.
all
Yeah.
metaphor, no text, essentially. All subtext, no text. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what this movie feels like in a bad way, but and we're almost at the end, so then we can talk about whether it makes any sense metaphorically or symbolically. Yeah, so the mother makes no sense as a character, as far as I'm concerned. No one would do this for decades for the reason the movie gives. Like by implication of her actions, she also just has to be crazy and evil.
Yeah.
I mean, she had to have been evil from the beginning. The
Yeah.
implication that, oh, she did it for the first time to save her daughter's life and she threw up because she wasn't happy about it, but then she kept doing it. Like, no, you were already, something was wrong already by implication,
Exactly.
but the movie doesn't seem to think that. The movie seems to think she was a normal woman.
Yeah, and was forced to do it, and
But she wasn't forced to do it. There were so many ways out of this.
Exactly. And even though it's what's the easier option out of this? Force yourself out of this, even if you know you'll get killed along with your daughter because devil bullshit. You'd still at least try to get out of this situation.
He's just the guy.
She just surrenders it to it completely.
Yeah. No, she's just
and
now
she's acting like no.
She's on his team now.
Yeah.
She's on the devil's team. And it's just like, why? Like, this is not the only option.
I guess defenders of this movie would say, oh, but the devil would kill her. And like, no, not really. It's just for the sake of the plot that she's on this dude's
here's
side.
The thing. If the options are you join forces with the devil to kill a whole bunch of families, or the only other option, let's say the only other option, because the devil's just going to get you either way, is that he just kills you, then I don't know. You die innocent. That's what you do. You die without being complicit in murdering other people.
Yeah.
That's what you do. But I don't believe that that's not the only other option, because by implication of the story, the devil needs a master puppeteer to build the voodoo dolls, essentially. Well, that's tenuous, but let's just assume that's the case. So if you kill Nick Cage, you're free. Like, this problem is done for you. You know what I mean? Like, and even
you're right.
Or even if the devil would find a way to kill you eventually, either way, you just don't do it. You don't kill loads and loads of families because you don't need to. That's stupid.
She does say, prayers don't do.
Yeah. Okay. So
early she believes there's no way out of it. Yeah.
Earlier on in the movie, her character makes no sense, and she flip-flops when we need to make a change. Earlier on in the movie, when she's on the phone and she says to her daughter, like, you're still saying your prayers, right? Make sure you still say your prayers. That's how we keep the devil away from us. I was like, oh, her character is going to be, her mom is religious and she's not anymore, but then something's going to happen that's going to maybe make her believe in the devil or something like that. Like, that seems like the obvious direction the story would go, is that, like, she has this very religious mother and she believes in the devil, and she's like, no, I'm a rational secular detective person. I don't believe in the devil. But then she's encounters something that maybe will force her. That seemed like where we were going. But then when she goes to visit the mom in person, the mom says, now I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to be honest. Have you been saying your prayers? And she goes, no, I never really have. And she laughs and goes like, that's fine, because prayers don't do anything. I'm like, who is this character? This isn't a person. Like, who says both things?
Yeah.
Like, why would you?
If she did at some point believe in prayers, she'd probably kill Nick Cage and I don't know, attend church. You could probably not have that influence over you to some degree.
She clearly does not believe in God and prayers and all that sort of stuff like that, because
so why even put up the facade of it? If
I
you
don't know.
Why even tell her to pray?
because like what no one would ever assume that what you've done here is like a deal with God to protect your daughter from the devil, because you're just helping the devil. You know what I mean? Like this is like, paying off a demon kind of thing. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no way to twist it into thinking that like, oh, this is God helping protect us or something like that. There's no way you would do that. So when she says, "Oh, are you saying your prayers?" She must have been full of shit from the beginning. Is the only real way of making sense of that, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't understand. She doesn't feel like a real person.
Yeah. What was the black smoke that came out the doll's head, and this chat might be remembering that smoke came out of Harker's head as well at the doll's scene. I don't remember that.
No, the main detective, Lee Harker.
Right. Does smoke come out of her head as well?
Yeah. Yeah, there's like some CGI when she shoots the doll. Ruth shoots the doll and it blows its head off. Then we cut to Lee Harker and CGI smoke comes out of the back of her head like a mist, and she just got like dazed, like whoa. She had like an LSD flashback to the 60s. Like that's
right. So Spidey Sensei, the answer is we don't know.
Yeah, what was that? Okay, hold on. There's one other thing here. Oh yeah, this is from the Wikipedia. Let's see if whoever wrote this will make sense of it for us.
Okay.
So she, being Ruth, complied, leaving Lee to be the missing birthday on the triangle. Longlegs has lived in the Harker house basement ever since. So yeah, since she was a little kid, apparently. That's insane that she never figured that out. But whatever, if that's true. Creating dolls he would infuse with his satanic magic to give to Ruth, who would pose as a nun, delivering a gift from the church, bringing the dolls to the families. Yes, we'll talk all about that whole contrived mess. Lee had her own doll created that has been guiding her with the satanic influence of Longlegs since childhood, is what the person who wrote this plot summary on Wikipedia says. But there has been no satanic influence. She's just been a detective doing good detective work. She hasn't been doing evil things. And Satan's like magic hasn't been leading her to anything. Like,
unless the implication is that the psychic ability is...
But the psychic ability has only been used for good. So how would that be a satanic
Why would
influence?
Satan... Yeah, exactly. How would Satan...
It's only been used for good.
Unless it's Satan leading her closer to figuring out...
Why?
His influence to...
Why, though? Why would he want that? Why would he want... Because in the end, he stops her. She stops this whole thing.
No, yeah, she stops the final child.
She kind of wins in the end, in a sense. It's kind of a happy ending, weirdly enough. But she stops it before it can kill another person. And the only reason she's here to do it is because...
She doesn't shoot the... It cuts to black as she shoots the doll, right?
Yeah. Oh no, it cuts back to Nick Cage, even though he's already dead, saying "Hail Satan" into the camera, and that's how it ends. But she saves... It appears that she saves the girl. Right? Because she's...
Right, but that doll is still there, so I would think
but she shoots it, didn't
herself.
she?
No, the gun jams or doesn't have bullets in it or something. I think that goes...
Okay, so it's ambiguous, so it's even dumber.
Right, yeah.
But what's the point? Okay.
All right.
If the devil and Longlegs are their influence... Why? Okay, what's the point of all the letters if your psychic doll influence hasn't led her to solve this case and do what you want her to do? What do you even want her to... It's
atrocious.
It's really bad. It's really stupid. It makes no sense. Like, there's been satanic influence over her entire life, and we just never see it, and it never has any effect. Why?
No, I really do think that the psychic abilities, as dumb as it sounds, is the satanic influence.
So the psychic abilities lead her to eventually be put on this case so that Longlegs can give her clues to solve this mystery so that ultimately she can be slightly too late to prevent someone from being killed. And then what? because the movie ends and like
Right.
we don't find out what happens next, and there's no reason.
Okay, Satan and your powers of mysticism. Here's some advice. If you want that girl to be on your trail, close, how about you just give her memory back or something?
No, but she didn't lose her memory. She never knew. Yeah, that's the thing. It could make more sense if no, it could make more sense if she had some sort of repressed memories that became unlocked at something. It would still be kind of a dumb trope, because repressed memories are stupid, and there's actually not a lot of evidence for them as a valid psychological phenomenon. But setting that aside,
I thought this movie was bad. You've just convinced me it's even worse. Well, thank you. You should choose to accept.
setting aside the repressed memories thing, let's just accept repressed memories as a trope.
Right.
That could make more sense of what we see in the movie, but there's nothing for her to repress. She wasn't there when Longlegs showed up in the middle of the night to try and kill her. She doesn't know any of the satanic things they're doing. So there's no memories to unlock.
But she does see him and take a photograph of him.
Yeah, but think about it from her perspective. When she was 9 years old, she went outside and saw there was a guy there. It's like, oh, hello, little girl. How are you? I hear it's your birthday coming up.
I thought she just forgot.
And then the mom says, like, oh, hey, stay away from her. And that's all she remembers. Like, that's all. And then she just forgot about that. But like, why would she have any reason to remember that? You know what I mean? There's not like a repressed memory.
This is
it's a nothing burger from her childhood that, like, why would you remember that? I don't remember any random strangers I might have been introduced to once when I was 9. You know what I mean? Like there's no reason to assume.
Oh no.
There's nothing repressed there. It's just a random, because none of the satanic activity was anything she had any awareness of at all.
You see, I'm trying to give advice to Satan here to do this in a simpler way than giving her psychic abilities. And
the whole idea that there's been a doll with satanic influence over her life, it's like I see nothing to indicate that.
Yeah,
literally nothing. Also, should you choose to accept in chat, who says, I kind of hate that they made Longlegs a Satan worshiper. He should have been his own villain with his own unique mythology. The satanic angle made him a lot more boring. True. I absolutely agree. The idea that he's a generic Satan servant is lame compared to anything that would have been more psychologically interesting.
I would agree with that. But I also think, okay, if you're going with Satan, do your research.
Yeah, okay. I think
seems like a stupid way to do it.
We're almost there. We're almost ready to talk about what Satan's up to in this movie.
Okay.
Let's see. So
we find out.
We're getting to the end. Awakening in the basement. Lee answers the phone to hear, "You're late for Ruby's party." Realizing Agent Carter's daughter, Ruby, has her 9th birthday that day, and that the Carter's deaths would complete Longlegs' triangle. Hey, so there's been a killer. Killer has been killing families with little girls around their 9th birthday, and always within a certain number of dates. So like they were like, oh, what's going to happen on the 14th though? The 14th is coming up. He's going to kill again on the 14th. And the main detective never says, hey, wait a minute. My daughter's birthday is on the 14th. There's a big party and everything. He just never puts that together once. Or he's been already being mind controlled by Satan to be stupid.
Don't even defend it like that. No,
that's not a defense. No. That's almost worse. It's almost worse. They're both really bad. Either way, he and okay. Well, here's the other thing. In the very beginning, when the daughter's like, "Will you come to my birthday party?" to the weird,
agent,
possibly autistic detective she just met, she's like, "Sure." If she asked right then, "When is it?" then we'd know. then the audience would know. Well, any normal person, if you're meeting someone, they're like, "Hey, will you come to my party?" First question would be, "When? When
Right.
is that going to be?" Because I'm an adult with a
Especially when you
schedule.
have the cipher. And you have,
Yeah.
I don't know what this last date stands for.
Well,
No
something's
idea.
going to happen on
What
the
could it
14th.
be?
He's probably going to kill again. Hey, when's your party, by the way? Oh, it's the 14th. Oh, are you 9 years old and are the only child and you have two parents? Oh, that's weird. How did we not like that's probably the most obviously stupid part of the movie.
When they got into the fight about cutting the cake, I was the only one in my theater who audibly left.
Oh, what was that? What was that fight again? I can't remember it right now.
Between the parents,
Yeah.
they were arguing about the cake. I can't remember exactly what was
Oh yeah,
said.
they're arguing about how to cut it, and he was like, "Well, you'll be dead in a minute anyway."
Yeah,
Or something like that.
No, honey, you'll stay in the kitchen. I remember that line.
Oh right, yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. So here's the thing: this scene is kind of funny. I almost enjoyed it, even though it's the stupidest.
Wait, I just noticed something. Wouldn't the boss know the nun is the mother of her agent? Or has he never seen her before?
Well, he hasn't seen her in person.
Oh.
I guess. Well, yeah, I guess he could assume. But here's the thing: it's a mind control Satan doll that causes
Right.
people to behave to completely lose their agency in all meaningful way. So as soon as so when does that influence start? Right when she gets to the door, or
yeah.
So
What
I
does
don't
she
know.
go?
But it doesn't really matter because you can wave the stupid bullshit wand and say,
Yeah.
well, he just,
But then again, the whole point of her to dress up like a nun is to get in
it's
the
to
house.
let them in. Yeah. So I suppose, yeah, if he was like, "Hey, aren't you Ruth, the mother of whatever?" And I suppose if she's wearing a nun costume and you don't have a picture of her, I can believe that he doesn't know that's the mom.
The boss, if he was smart, should have at some point went to the
Remembered when his kid's birthday party was?
Yeah, that for one, that thing, yeah. And he should have at least met the mother of the agent because of the police report thing.
Yeah,
I mean, they could have easily went together, and
brought her
if
in
he
for
saw her
questioning,
then, and then saw her at the door as a nun, maybe
it's a
he'd
game
catch
over.
on. Like it's very kind of close cut. Like, okay, luckily he didn't see her before, kind of thing.
That is lucky. Yes, I agree. Because in a better movie, he might have called her in for questioning instead of just sending Lee on her own to just go ask her.
Yep.
Yes. So, what's her name? Lee arrives at the party. Oh, and it's too late. It's already in progress. The devil doll is there, and everyone's acting very strangely because they're being mind controlled by the devil using occult magic.
Yep.
So they'll kill themselves. They have no agency. There's no way of getting through to them. It's already happening, and they're just going to kill themselves in each other now. Because the devil's and so Lee's like trying to stop them, but nothing really happens.
She tries to speak to the mom. The mom says they're already dead.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall what else can I remember in the scene. Yeah, they have the argument about the cake, how to slice it.
There's something
like
kind of
wordplay.
There's some funny stuff in this because it's like they're clear that they're already about to enact this thing. Like they all sort of are aware of what's about to happen, and they're making kind of jokes about it almost. There's a lightness to the way they're performing. The daughter is looking at the doll with this really funny facial expression. I don't know quite how to describe it, but she's like looking adoringly at this doll in a kind of a funny.
Yeah, she's hugging it. Yeah,
and it's kind of darkly funny, this scene, but the rest of the movie has not been funny. So like it's a tonal whiplash.
I was just weirded out, to be honest. I didn't feel any laughter. I was just, well, this is uncomfortable. Not necessarily because the scene was making me uncomfortable, and that's because it's a horror or anything. But it was just like I was more so confused as to how this works. I thought like the agent maybe would clue onto what's happening here. I mean, she saw these scenes.
Yeah.
Keep the parents away from anything dangerous. That's one thing. Get the doll out. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff you could do here to try to prevent it. But she
That she
doesn't.
doesn't really do, because the movie's logic is like, oh, they're already mind controlled by the devil, so there's nothing you can do. Then the dad just like, then the dad kills the wife,
Yeah.
and then
Off
after he
screen.
murders his wife, Lee shoots and kills Carter to protect him before he can kill his daughter Ruby. And then Ruth, the mom, dressed as the nun, brandishes a dagger and praises Satan. So clearly,
Hail Satan. Yeah.
she's just on Team Satan. Lee is forced to shoot and kill her, and then now she's dead. Afterwards, Lee just has the girl, and the girl is not has not turned on her or anything. She's just looking there. She's just being weird, and she kind of pulls the daughter away from the doll and is going to shoot the doll, but the gun is empty. She tells Ruby they need to leave, but then they remain frozen in there staring at the doll, and then it cuts away. And before cutting to black, it decides to cut back to Longlegs in the interrogation room, speaking directly to the camera
I forgot about that.
from back when he was still alive, I guess, saying "Hail Satan," and then it cuts to credits. So,
Okay. No, that. Why did I blank that out? That Longlegs appears
because
in
it's
the
really
final
stupid.
shot.
It makes no sense that he would add that in at the end. It's just
I,
like,
maybe I was just getting up and leaving. Maybe that's why I don't remember it. I don't.
maybe. So we're here. We can talk about the devil's plan. What is okay? So here's the thing that makes this rather symbolically incoherent for me,
Mhm.
is that in basically every other work of fiction that involves the devil or demons and stuff like that,
Mhm.
it they're trying to corrupt people,
Mhm.
not mind control them so they die. Because at this point, the devil has magic powers. If the devil has magic powers and wants to kill people, he could just snap his fingers. That's essentially what he's doing here, because he's not using people's flaws or fears or desires to corrupt them into doing something evil. He's not doing that, which is what he would do in almost any other story. In this, they lose all their agency entirely and just kill each other. So why does the devil even want this to happen? If does he just want them dead? Because he could just presumably just snap his fingers in the night because he has magical bullshit powers. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense as a
But you see,
motivation.
yeah, Cap, you are exactly on point. I guess the implication is he needs the silver balls to mind control you, to kill you. And what those single silver balls are made of, and those specifically, you'd assume that if the devil can do this in this universe, then he obviously would have done it beforehand, supposedly.
Yeah, it's just
Right.
okay. First of all, it's really lame that
Yes.
there's no agency in the characters who are killing everyone,
Right.
and that it's just the devil mind controlling them. It's like, well, what are you even after? Like, what is the devil getting out of this? Does he just want people to be dead, or does he like what is he aiming for? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think, yeah, you're on point. The implication thing I think it's implying is he's collecting their souls, supposedly.
Okay, yeah, but
Right?
you don't steal someone's soul by taking their agency away and causing them to die. You take away
Exactly.
their soul by
Right.
getting them to give it away or lose it by doing something that destroys it. You know what I mean? It's the whole like,
Okay.
like
Yep.
okay, The Shining is one of my favorite movies. In The
Yep.
Shining, what the ghostly evil forces in the hotel are doing is preying on Jack's resentment of his own family that's already there before we even get to the hotel. He kind of resents his family. He wants to be a writer. He has this romantic vision of what it means to be a writer, and wanting to be successful and all that sort of stuff, and wanting to be in the sort of elite class, which is why there's always stuff of the elites that came to this hotel, and why he fantasizes about all that. And he resents his family for kind of getting in the way of what he aspires to be in life. That's basically the implication, right? He already dislikes his family. And so when he gets here, there's these demonic, ghostly, devilish forces that are kind of pushing him in the direction that he's already kind of inclined to go, to like corrupt him and like create fertile ground for him to become evil himself. And if we think about that story, it's not, there is no devil in the story explicitly, or Satan in the story explicitly, but it's the same story. It's like, there are these demonic spiritual forces that are corrupting people by playing on, it's the witch too. Have you seen The Witch?
I've heard of it. I haven't
The
seen
Witch
it.
is really
It's
good.
kind of like Paranormal Activity, right?
No, The Witch is a period piece horror movie with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Anya Taylor-Joy, yes.
Have you seen it?
I've heard of it. I've seen clips of it. Yes.
Okay, I won't spoil it for you. But there's a similar sort of thing happening where there's a witch, and it's like corrupting people.
Yes.
Instead of just mind controlling them into dying. That's so lame. And because what are you like, because I mean, if we think about, because Satan doesn't show up a ton in the Bible, but he does in Job. And what's he doing in Job? He's trying to like corrupt him, essentially. He's like, oh, here, this is your best guy, Job, your best believer. I'm going to prove that even he, like, I can break him too.
He also shows up to Jesus and, offers him, turn this way into the bread, blah, blah, blah. It's
a temptation designed to corrupt him. Yeah,
exactly. And okay, so I was, from my perspective, I was wondering, how does this exactly work? And I was trying to justify it somehow. Like, maybe it's not Satan per se. Maybe it's possession, and we get into exorcism territory. I know devils, evil spirits do that. They possess people, and supposedly Jesus cast out devils. All of that I basically count as mental illness, really, and that it's not something so sudden where, oh, I'm going into kill mode quickly. I need to kill. Even possession like that is gradual. It doesn't step by step, and then you're kind of this demons and spirits, but they're kind of like wild animals, and then I just say, okay, mental illness, whatever. Satan himself, this is the biggest flop in here. He needs you to stray from God. He needs you to sin out of your own free will. He does not control you. He does not have that ability. All right. He wants you to separate you from the divine. That's the mentality. He doesn't even want you to see him as evil. He doesn't even want you to see him, Satan. He doesn't really want that big of a presence. He doesn't even want you to know that he exists. You are the man. You are the king of your world. You are the epitome.
I hate to interrupt you, but you're getting to something that I actually find really interesting. And there's kind of, there's a lot of, I think, well, either misconceptions or, let's say, like, conflicting views about what even constitutes a Satanist. There's kind of two ways of looking at it, from what I can tell. Is that like, there's the kind of Satanist who worships the devil as if it were a god. And a lot of times when you see like the Church of Satan and like cringe stuff like that in like America and probably Europe as well, but like it's like they project onto the devil certain traits, a lot of which that like they think God doesn't have, but he does actually. But then there's some other, it's like a weird, it's like, I don't know, it's like
I understand what you mean.
They don't think the devil is evil, and they worship it like it is an actual, like a god or a being or a spirit that has power and stuff like that you can be in communion with or whatever. And then there's the version of Satanism where like I forget who said this, but someone said that like real Satanism is the worship of the self, because that's what Satan does, especially in like Paradise Lost. Like that version of Lucifer, let's say, as a character, is the putting yourself at the level of a god. So like there's the worshiping Lucifer, the devil, Satan, whatever, as if it were a god, or treating yourself as if you are one, are kind of two, I think, different versions. Kind of they don't mix. They're kind of two different ways of looking at what Satanism is. One is like, so like this movie is very much the former. It's presenting Satanists as like people who treat, well, kind of, but then in the movie they're aware that he's evil explicitly, and they're just fine with it. So like I don't even know what we're getting at there. There's no corruption at all. There's no corruption angle. There's no attempt to deceive even, or like to pretend evil is good, actually, like that sort of thing. That's a trope that comes up in a lot of sort of demonic stuff. If you think about like a lot of possessions, like, because even in the Exorcist, even, it's like he doesn't just possess her so he can immediately kill her. He like possesses with her to like taunt and torment the mother, and taunt and torment the priests who come to try and save her.
It's all in the service of suffering.
Yeah.
I wish we could see a good example of that Satanism you're talking about, where there is this worship of self. You are the pinnacle kind of thing.
Have you seen speaking of Silence of the Lambs and all that, have you seen the movie Red Dragon, which is a prequel to Silence of the Lambs?
What's his name? Hulk actor. What's his name?
Edward Norton's in it, and so is Ralph Fiennes. Yes,
I even watched the show based on that character.
Oh, Hannibal.
Hannibal, where he was the main character. That I can't remember what his name was.
I don't remember what his character's name is. Yes, but anyway, in the movie, so you've seen Red Dragon.
Yes.
So Red Dragon is a little bit like that. There's a guy who like he's obsessed, especially with the dragon, and I believe in William Blake's paintings and some writings,
doesn't he? Yeah,
about that. Like he sort of sees himself as becoming a demon himself, and becoming the embodiment of a demon, and sort of becoming a god who decides who lives and who dies and all that sort of stuff, and like bringing about this change in other people. Like that's sort of his weird MO in that. And so, there's a lot of ways you could explore, even if you went with the version of Satanism that this movie has, where you treat him like a being, whatever. A more meaningful exploration of that would probably involve people who like think actually he isn't evil. You know what I mean? He just, because like when you get people who are like sympathetic to the Lucifer figure in like Paradise Lost, it's like, oh, actually, Lucifer's the good guy because he's a rebel and he's raging against the tyranny of heaven and all that sort of stuff. And there's a sort of like rebellious spirit that they project onto that. You know what I mean? You could explore that angle, but in this, they're Satanists because he's evil, and they're also evil. It's just incredibly.
It's a childlike understanding of the devil. It's like really just, I don't know.
Lame.
Lame, hollow, surface level. It's an evil little entity that controls it. You could kind of named it whatever, to be honest, and it would work better.
Even still, even if it was a random demon that they gave a name like Glockfnu or whatever bullshit, it would still be really stupid because it just doesn't make any thematic sense that there's this spirit that wants to completely rid you of your agency just so it can kill you for the end goal of what? You just being dead?
Yeah.
Like okay, because what? Okay,
I suppose Satan has the thing with souls, but Even that we're not sure.
Yeah, but like in classic stories of people like selling their souls or whatever, it's like if in a story about someone like making a deal at the crossroads with the devil to be a really good guitar player or what have you, you found out that actually in this story the devil mind controls you into making that deal, you'd be like, well, that's narratively retarded, because like you need the agency, or else what's even the point? You know what I mean? Like, because in The Exorcist, the girl doesn't have she doesn't really do anything wrong to become possessed, if I remember correctly, because it's not really about her. It's about like testing the mother, and it's about testing the priest who ends up coming to help, and kind of mocking them and making a mockery by possessing this perfectly innocent child. It like makes a mockery of all that they value or whatever, and tests them. You know what I mean? It wouldn't just possess the little girl to kill it, because that would like this one would be, you'd be like, why?
Yeah, even that
If
serves the point. Yeah,
if you just want them dead, then surely you could just kill them in other ways. Like, why is it enacting a whole family murder suicide? Like, what's the point of that? There seems to be something about attacking the family unit, but like, you're not corrupting the family unit, you're just destroying it for the sake of destroying it. See, the problem with making him a Satanist who's literally just thinks he's doing the bidding of the devil, and the devil is real, because none of this happens if there isn't literal devil magic in it. You know what I mean? In another story that's grounded and there's no magic nonsense, you could have it be that a character believes they're doing the bidding of the devil, but really it's their own evil and psychosis and blah, 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 blah. Like, obviously you could do something like that. And you could get into the psychology of why specifically he thinks the devil wants him to destroy families in this way.
Yep.
What does that say? What does that mean? But when you actually have it be the devil using mind control magic to get the families to kill, it doesn't say anything. There's nothing to say there about human beings, there's nothing to say about human evil. It's just nothing. It's hollow, it's lame, it's stupid.
It's done for shock value. I feel like the Hail Satan especially.
To be edgy, essentially, I guess.
And again, it's like it's not like the families get divorced and argue and stuff like that. And then no, they kill each other, all of them, as just all
at once, even if there were no problems. It doesn't prey on, it doesn't like pick at existing scabs. It doesn't do anything like that. No, it just mind controls you. This is kind of the problem. Did you see Midsummer?
I heard of it.
Okay.
But I haven't seen it.
This isn't much of a spoiler, because by the time you ever get around to seeing it, you'll have forgotten I mentioned this. But there's a problem in the third act where main character makes a choice, but they're so drugged up that they've lost all their agency, so it kind of undermines the narrative weight of the choice. I'm just going to say that. And this is kind of the same way, where it's because these characters have no agency because they're literally just being mind controlled. There's no narrative weight to it.
No, definitely. Midsummer is kind of pagan in a sense, I suppose, because all the flowers and the heads and stuff like that. And
there's a lot of sort of pagan imagery and sort of like Maypole festival imagery and stuff like that. There's a little Wicker Man-iness to it in some sense, but and they find this remote community living in Sweden, I believe it is. That
throwing shade on Sweden, and wow, geez.
I think they're Swedish. It's something like that, and they're this remote community that still has this very pagan community and all these rituals and stuff like that. And it's kind of pagan horror, if you will.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention as well, about Longlegs, like to at least fix it to some degree. maybe you could have a backstory with him where his parents were really hating each other, right? And in some incidents, he watched them kill each other, and he's recreating that in all the family's lives. That's kind of his revenge on the world for what he had to witness or
Yes.
whatever. They give us nothing.
Yeah, you're right. And I still think even if you didn't have the backstory explaining that happened to him, you could read into why he's doing it if it were him doing it. But it's not really
It's
him
not
doing
him.
it. It's
It's the
just
doll.
this is what the devil wants. This is what the devil wants for no reason. There's no
Yeah.
obvious reason. This isn't something the devil would or should want. If he just like the devil isn't, in serial killer terminology, they talk about process killers and product killers.
Mhm.
So like a process killer is someone who kills because the actual act of killing and how they do it is what they're after. And then a product killer is someone who, like, the actual method doesn't really matter. It's just about them being dead, either because they just want them to die or they want to do something to them afterwards or something horrible like that. So there's kind of a difference in like how they do it matters. And the devil in this just seems to be like a product killer. Like he just wants them dead. I don't know
Yeah.
why. He doesn't, because okay, even if you left the mind control thing, which I agree with the person in chat, it takes all the fun out
Yeah.
of it. Even if you leave the mind control, so the family has no agency, you need this to be having an effect on the community and society.
And we
So
never show other people, to be honest. We've
no,
not
we
shown that
never.
many people in this film.
If this was a big high profile thing, like it got out to the press that all these murder suicides are actually being caused by devil
Mhm.
worshippers.
And
Like,
maybe the devil is trying to instill some fear around it.
yeah,
No,
like
none of that.
you would have to imagine that if this is what the devil wants, is to mind control people and to murder suiciding their whole families.
And to supposedly get souls, because that's how it works, right? When that's how you collect souls. You
I
mind
guess
control them and kill
this
them.
is
Yeah,
what he wants to do. For what purpose? Like, if you wanted to keep this, which I wouldn't, but if you do, like to like attack at the sort of fabric of society and watch how people react to this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
This should have ripple effects, and that should be what he's actually after, if anything. You know what I mean? Because as is, it doesn't even appear to be public knowledge. It's not like when she talks to the mom, she's like, "Oh, I heard about that case on the television." No, it's like she doesn't know about it. This is all private. So the only people this is having an effect on is a few FBI agents.
Yeah.
And so that can't be the ultimate goal. It all feels like everything is in the service of getting the girl to remember that, oh my God, my mom has been lying to me this whole time. Like everything about the plan and how all the clues are laid out is just all in the service of leading this detective to be like, oh, the big revelation is that your mom was actually killing people to keep you alive
Yeah.
and to deal with the
Mhm.
devil. And
No,
it's
she
like,
wasn't. If she
no,
was doing it for that much, maybe some part of her liked doing it.
yeah,
I'd even argue.
I would argue that as well, especially when she yells "Hail Satan" right at the end. Unless she's
That
possessed
pulls out a
too.
dagger.
Yeah, unless she's
Where did
possessed
she get
too.
it from?
Has she been possessed this whole time? In which case, no one has any agency and none of this matters.
Yep. And maybe you could get away with this in the 70s, dress up as a nun and say you have a gift from the church
This is
again.
in the
No.
70s, from the 70s even through the 90s. Like, I don't know, that just feels so weird. Like the church has given you this very realistic doll that looks like your daughter. Why would the church do that? Like, what a stupid lie. Like, what?
I don't think the church would go around offering material goods to families unless it's, I don't know, like, no, there's nothing like a big present or anything. That's stupid. No,
No.
I don't think church communities or anything would do that.
Happy birthday. Here's a life-size doll replica of your daughter from the
Like,
church.
like, does she tell them at the door that she has a doll for them?
I don't know. I guess not. And then she opens it, and then it's game over because the mind control's on. But like,
if a nun is offering me a big package at my doorstep, I'm sorry,
I
I'm
would ask,
raising an
what is it?
eyebrow. All right,
Yeah.
I'm already just like, and I don't know whether that's in 70s or 90s. People were more.
No, I mean, maybe you'd let them in or something like that, but it would be
Yeah.
strange.
It would be strange.
It's a strange lie. Oh, first of all, the primary thing to say is it's not a lie you'd make up in the first place because it's stupid.
Yes.
Oh, we're here with a gift from the church. It's a giant box.
You're
like,
a nun. You could make up another excuse to get into the house, surely.
Yeah, and also the implication, Spidey Sensei in the chat says that if the family wasn't a member of this church, why would they even accept the gift? So the implication seems to be that, like, this is all one very small community, or like, well, what if these people? Okay, if these people were actual regular, if any one of these families was a regular attendee at a parish and knew
I
the
never seen you before. Yeah,
they'd be like, "Who are you? What church are you from?" Like a
and,
gift.
we know that she's not religious because she says prayers are bullshit.
Yeah, she's pretending this is all an act for her. And she's like, if anyone was ever like, "What church are you from?" I've never seen you at church before. Oh, or also we don't go to church. You know, that could happen.
Sorry, we're Buddhists.
Yeah, we're Buddhists. I no thanks. We don't want whatever you got in there. None that we don't know. No, thank you.
That makes me question: do they plan out on whose? Does it matter on whose door they knock? Does it matter which specific family? Does it matter if it's that specific cop's family?
Well, it has. Well, they clearly stake out. You know, they're looking for specific people because it has to be a family that has a mother, a father, and a daughter, and they have.
Is it always a single kid?
I can't remember. Maybe it isn't always a single kid. I can't remember. It seemed to be. Most of them seem to be.
Again, that's another level of
two parents, and they have to have a birthday at a certain date. So it's a narrow window, which is why it made some sense that, like, when the daughter happened to not be there because she was at a friend's house or whatever, that he just went ahead with it anyway because it had to be on that date because he's so pressed that it has to be on the certain date. I don't know why. The other implication is. Sorry, go ahead with the comment.
It's kind of creepy. So gives you a life-size doll of your child. Like, how do you know what my child looks like? How do they know what the child looks like? No, they have to pick it out in advance then.
Yeah, they definitely pick it out well in advance. How they've studied her well enough to do I guess maybe they.
I mean, Nick Cage doesn't exactly blend in, does he?
No, he doesn't. He's obviously creepy all the time. So they obviously stake out the kids or the families, and they choose them very deliberately. But it's all so stupid.
And they have to do it in specific dates.
Because
single child.
Here's what I was going to say. The other implication is that, like, there was one day missing from his triangle. It's like, was he going to stop once he completed his triangle? It was like, that's it. The devil only wanted me to do this many murders because that makes a nice happy pattern on the calendar. Was he going to stop then? That doesn't really make any sense.
Again,
they also kind of, they don't really make clear whether Nick Cage is literally possessed by the devil or just a big fan. Because if because he doesn't seem to have any real psychology of his own. He's not doing anything differently or independently or on his own from what the devil wants. Because he could be. He could be like, we don't really even get a sense that he enjoys this. I mean, that he wants to watch, or what does he get out of it? You know what I mean? He doesn't seem like a real person to me.
No.
Hardly anyone feels like a real person. The only person
plot device,
real and not like a plot device in the service of this garbled metaphor about what I don't even know is the superior officer, the head detective. He just seems like a normal guy until he gets mind controlled into killing his family.
Again, she knew what was going to happen. She could don't stand there like a bloody idiot. Oh my God. All right, I guess.
Couldn't she have just shot the doll right away? She had bullets in the gun. And then she only doesn't shoot the doll because she ran out of bullets after shooting the husband and then shooting her mom, the nun. So she could have just shot the doll from the very
That's
beginning.
2 shots. I'm pretty sure a revolver holds 6.
Was it a revolver? I don't remember.
Was it? I think it was a revolver.
I don't remember how many shots she fired, but before she has to kill the husband and before she has to, quote unquote, kill the nun, couldn't she have just shot the doll?
Yeah, because that supposedly freed her of the influence.
Whatever that means.
Maybe.
Yeah, so also she's pretty incompetent. To add that on top of everything else that sucks about the finale, she goes about it in a very stupid, incompetent way. So that's fun. That's really satisfying. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's bad. I think it's a bad movie with nothing to say, and it sacrifices so many narrative threads that could be interesting. It sacrifices plot coherency for the sake of like symbols and vibes that don't amount to anything coherent anyway. That's because I've watched movies where the plot is kind of like a little wacky and like doesn't quite line up, and like, wait, I don't know if this makes any literal sense, but at least metaphorically there's something there. David Lynch movies come to mind. Some of them are pretty strange in terms of trying to understand what's literally happening, but at least there's something that feels coherent in an abstract sort of way, if that makes sense. This doesn't even have that. It feels like that's what it wants. That's what it wants, because it's not interested in a detective mystery, even though it's wearing the skin of one for some reason. It's interested in like weird symbols and vibes and metaphors, but it doesn't do anything interesting with that either. It's lame. It's stupid and it's bad, and I don't like it.
Yep. And by the way, this seems like a controversial take. People seem to really like this movie.
So far, yeah. If we look at, hold on, let's look at Rotten Tomatoes, but we'll click on it. Let's say the actual rating out of 10 from critics. Not that, you're aware, I'm assuming, of the way Rotten Tomatoes is really stupid, the way it counts votes. Yeah, so the actual rating out of 10 from critics, it has an 88% just of percent of people who gave it a positive rating. The actual rating is 7.6 out of 10. The audience score is a 66. Which is lower than I expected it to be, but that feels at least closer. We're heading in the right direction. Let's get that number even lower.
Let me get that on screen. There we go. Yeah, you're right.
So 66 from audience. Horror fans are relatively easy to please, all things considered. So that it has that lowest score is actually rather telling. That a significant amount of people are like, I don't know what that was about.
That's interesting, because some of my mutuals do think this is a really good movie. I don't know how to convince them otherwise. I guess I could point them to this 3-hour stream, but
So yeah, right now, it has a 7.4 on IMDb. That's crazy overhyped.
Wow.
I would like to. Here's what I would like to think. I don't know if this is true or not. I'd like to think that a lot of this is hype, and that the more they think about it, the more their opinion will go down.
Yeah.
Like right now, the only people that have seen it right now are people who are really hooked by the marketing.
Yeah.
Like myself included. And I think a lot of people, when they're that excited for a movie, are like really want to have liked it. And so even if it was a little weird and they didn't quite understand it, they're just going to assume that it made more sense. Like I mentioned this in a tweet that I think you saw. The one guy coming out of the theater said, like, dude, I'm so dumb. I didn't get that at all. Like his natural instinct was, I didn't understand that. It must be my fault, not the movie's fault. I think that's kind of unfortunate, but it seems like a not insignificant amount of people have that perspective when it comes to certain movies like this, especially that get kind of abstract and artsy, if you will. They're like, oh, I didn't get that. It must be that I just didn't get it. Not that the movie is a mess that doesn't make any sense.
To be honest, like about the artsy stuff, I never thought of this movie as artsy per se. I just thought of it as nonsensical. There are some movies where they are artsy, and don't really kind of like it and stuff like that. But never once did this mess of a film occur to me. Oh, it's artsy fartsy. I thought of it more as this is nonsense. This plot point doesn't connect with this one.
I think
I guess maybe that's the mentality of the director, that they're doing artsy stuff. But it never occurred to me.
I understand what you mean. I think because ostensibly it is a detective mystery and there's a character solving clues and trying to unravel a puzzle, that people are inclined to think about it in that way in terms of how all the pieces fit together in a literal way. And because this is a serial killer horror sort of thing, there's less leeway for crazy logic stuff because it's all supposed to be grounded ostensibly. If I'm watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, I might expect that to have some more, like, I mean, not that it would be okay if the plot made no sense, but it is a very dreamlike sort of thing. Whereas this is like a serial killer, you think it's just going to be people and they only have the abilities and capabilities that people have in the real world. And then it's like, oh, just kidding, there's magic. And maybe people are psychic sometimes, who knows? It's strange. I think it primes people to expect something that it doesn't give. And I think that partly explains the audience score. As someone mentioned in the chat, it had 100% a couple of days ago on Rotten Tomatoes.
Audience score.
No, I assume that's the critic score. That was 100% at one point. But it does appear to be dropping. I expect that to drop even more.
Oh, I hope so.
I think so. I think this is the
have faith in people that they know what's done.
Well, here's the other thing. What is this movie on a rewatch? You know what I mean? Like, what is the experience of rewatching this movie? When you know what's going to happen and you know where it's all going, I think that's when this movie will really fall apart for people. Anyone who really liked it because of the vibes and what they, it was scary in the atmosphere and all that sort of stuff. Everything they really liked. Nick Cage, he was so scary. And then watching it again, like what is there to hook into? It's
how long do you give it? 3 months?
Before what?
Before it completely gets forgotten from the conscious memory, I suppose, or gets trashed on, or something like that.
I don't think it'll have a legacy, really. I think there will always be a contingency of people who will swear that it was really good, who will be like, who will share 4 screenshots of it on Twitter and be like, oh, this movie was amazing. You know what I mean? The sort of thing people do all the time, where they show 4 context-free screenshots and be like, oh, this was an amazing movie. I don't think it'll have long legs. No, I don't think this movie will stand the test of time. I expect the ratings to go down significantly. Not to the point they probably should. I don't know if anyone will ever really consider this a 3 out of 10, though I think they probably should. So 3 or 4, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing that was just mentioned in the chat, the use of the song Bang a Gong, which I quite like as a song. I thought it was just kind of lame the way they incorporated it in this movie. Because I don't know if you remember, but the very beginning of the movie, on a red title screen, they show black text that it's lyrics from this song, and then they play the song at the end credits. But the end credits...
Is that the significance of the name Long? What does that mean?
Longlegs, I just think that's a line that he says when he's talking to the girl, and he's like, oops, I have my long legs on, and then he kind of crouches down to her level. That's the only mention of long legs. In the song, it doesn't say anything about long legs. It says something about, like, you have the teeth of the Hydra upon you, is a lyric from the song, and it's presented as a quote in the very beginning of the movie, and then the song plays at the end. Which I think maybe in a better movie I'd like, but when the song hits at the end credits, it's like everything the past 30 minutes have been profoundly stupid. So when the song hits at the end, I'm like, oh, fuck you. Like, don't try to use a decent song to prop up your stupid ending. The ending sucked. The ending was
Oh,
really
so you
bad.
mean like the Gladiator 2 trailer? You're thinking that propping up songs is bad now, is it? Jeez.
Oh God, what? I don't even know. I didn't recognize the song that played in that trailer. Just
Apparently, it's some Kanye West music. I
yeah,
think.
I'm not surprised. It felt very out of place. But then again, so did using Black Sabbath's War Pigs in the Napoleon trailer. He's been doing
Really?
this for a while. Yeah, it
Oh
was real
wow.
cringe. Napoleon sucked. Napoleon
Yeah.
is a bad movie, and I expect Gladiator 2 to be bad as well.
My older brother is like really into Napoleon. He really likes painting portraits of historical figures or of
Oh, that's cool.
pop culture figures. He painted that.
Oh, the
Um
Darth Maul? That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, he painted that. He's really good.
Wow,
Um
good for him.
and he was really into Napoleon. He was reading about him, stuff like that. He knows his history. He watched the other movies, and when he watched that, boy, was he disappointed. Like he really, really wanted to like it, but I just it's funny. I just saw him like day by day, just noticing little things that didn't make sense or historically
Aren't
were totally
true. Yeah.
inaccurate.
The
Yeah.
movie's full of lies, and
I felt so sorry for him. He was like really looking forward to that movie. Apparently, there's meant to be a director cut as well.
oh, it'll be even worse. I guarantee
Yeah.
it. Guarantee it'll be even worse. There'll be more scenes of Napoleon being just like, what would you even say? Like just a gross, petty, vindictive little asshole. Like
Yep.
the movie is such a hit piece on Napoleon. It's really quite crazy, and it's not. I did a live stream on this. This is be a good one to check out if anyone hasn't seen it. It was with Rags and Fringy, and it was about historical accuracy in film, and also specifically the case of Napoleon. The weirdest thing about Napoleon is how obviously anti-Napoleon it was, because the movie is not what you might expect for a movie about Napoleon. Is kind of three options, right? And there's a spectrum, but three basic options. Option one is it's only the good stuff he ever did, and he's presented as a heroic figure, right?
Yep.
Option two would be a sort of fair and balanced, trying to stick as close to what really happened as you can. You take the good and the bad, you put them together. You get a nuanced, true portrait of the man. And option three is you do all the worst stuff and only the worst stuff. And that's what Napoleon does, essentially.
Yep.
It's crazy. I don't know why. I don't know why he was so motivated to just shit on Napoleon. That's the whole.
I reckon he'll do now the same thing with Rome in Gladiator.
Well, that's obvious from the trailer to
Yeah.
me. Okay, because if you think about it, I've been wanting to talk about this. I'm glad it came up. So, because I have a lot of thoughts on this, right? I like Gladiator. I know that it's not a very historically accurate movie. Ridley Scott has never been good about historically accurate movies. But Gladiator was much closer to, what would you say, like the spirit of like okay, here's the main difference from what I can tell. I've watched the trailer, and this seems quite obvious that in Gladiator 2, the story is going to be about two people who want to bring the Roman Empire down, and we're meant to root for them. And the people represented by the Roman Empire are these two pale weirdos who just seem horribly corrupt and evil.
Joffrey, yeah.
Yeah, they're two twin Joffreys who run Rome, essentially, and are Denzel Washington and Paul Mescal are going to combine forces to try and bring down the Roman Empire. First of all, I don't know why you do that, because the target audience for a Gladiator movie are people who like the Roman Empire, for one. Let's start there, right? That's your target audience. People who can't stop thinking about the Roman Empire. So mistake number one. And the other thing
I understood that reference.
is the big difference between that and Gladiator 1 is that, in broad strokes, Gladiator 1, you've seen it, right? I'm not spoiling anything.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
The broad strokes of Gladiator 1 is that he's a Roman general. He's in line to maybe take over. And then the corrupt, shitty, degenerate, petty, villainous son takes over instead, casts him out, casts him down into slavery. He becomes a gladiator. He works his way back. He gets revenge and restores Rome to what it was. Essentially, it's more like just in the broadest possible sense. It's more like The Lion King, where it's not about destroying
It's
Pride
actually
Rock.
restoring it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about restoring it. Like a corrupt person takes over, and you got to set things right. That's basically the gist.
And it's much more about the character as well.
Well,
Him
yeah,
getting his revenge and his
yeah. I'm sure there
freedom.
will be character stuff in this one too, probably worse in every way. But just think about just optically. One is a story about a guy who represents the good of Rome, and then someone who represents the bad of Rome takes over, makes everything worse, and you gotta kill him and restore things to their proper place. This is Rome is horribly corrupt and needs to be taken down, and we're gonna follow the people who want to destroy it. Like that seems to be what he's going with. It's like, I don't know. Good luck with that, my dude. I'm not going to be watching it. I have no hope of a good Ridley Scott movie ever again.
Yep. I wonder what else he's doing. I think he was doing something else.
Oh, he's done a number of things. He did that movie, The Last Duel, that was also bad and really horribly anachronistic in terms of the spirit of medieval stuff.
This is my surprise face.
Yeah, exactly. He executive produced and directed an episode or two of a show called Raised by Wolves, a sci-fi show that no one ever heard of. But Hugh, the guy who runs the channel with me, Hugh and I watched it. We were really enjoying it for the first 6 episodes or so, and then it totally shit the bed. The drop off from how good it started to how badly the first season ended was just horrendous. And I'm like, I'll never forgive him. It was so bad. I was so disappointed.
Kind of like Westworld. Yeah.
Oh, it was so bad, man. And it had such potential. I was so ready to be like, guys, everyone needs to see this show. It's so cool and it's so interesting. And then nope, they ruined it all. So thanks, Ridley. Thanks for that.
Yeah. It's sad to see is that Ridley. Who else has really gone down the drain? Russell Davis,
James Cameron,
James. What was he? Avatar 2.
Avatar 2 sucks.
Yeah.
I don't think it's maybe quite as egregious as some of the other falls from grace, but it's still pretty bad. I think Avatar 2 was bad in a very different kind of way. But anyway.
Okay. I guess we've been going for 3 hours and 20 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
Longlegs. Good. I don't think it's very good at all, and I wouldn't recommend it. No,
I wouldn't recommend it either. And I was having because seriously, some of my mutuals the uninspired reviewer. I know he liked it. He's a good friend. Vex Electronica, her I know, she really liked it. I gave it a 3 out of 10, and I was thinking and reading their reviews. I'm like, maybe I'm too harsh. Maybe I'm overthinking. No, giving it a 3 out of 10 is completely justified. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, no
absolutely
problem.
Destroy this movie.
Probably going to talk about this movie again next Sunday on my channel. Hugh, who runs the channel with me, he has not seen it yet, which is why we didn't review it today.
Why are you torturing him? Jeez.
Because that's what friends do. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what friends do. It's like, you know what, Hugh? I watched this movie. I told him at first, I'm like, you don't need to see this movie. And then I thought about the movie more, and I said, you know what? I want to talk about it on stream, so you do have to see it. I'm sorry. That's how that goes.
Oh.
And especially if people are still praising it to death in a week's time.
Yeah. Okay. If people keep praising it, tell Mola to watch it.
Perhaps I will. We'll see.
That's like the nuclear code. Enough of this.
He's better at forcing me to watch things than I am at forcing him to watch things. I don't know what it is. He just has more satanic influence over me.
But I have met him on a metal stream. But if I meet him again, I'll also tell him.
I know he likes horror movies, so
yeah.
I don't think he'll like this one.
Just tell him it's a good niche horror movie. You'll enjoy it.
No, I already told him. I don't recommend it. Yeah, it's not the kind of thing that would appeal to him. It's not, because the plot is garbage and the character work is garbage. So
Yeah. It's such a shame because I went into this movie with this mentality that okay, I can't remember any movie that I've seen in the theater this year apart from maybe Dune 2. I saw that, I suppose. That's the first that comes to mind.
Did you like
And
Dune 2?
it was fine, I suppose. Like I liked the
It
war.
didn't resonate with you.
I liked the war, the final act. But
Yeah.
I felt it could have been built up to better. I don't really feel like a need to rewatch it, to be honest. I thought it was well made. It's not that it didn't appeal to me. I like the whole war aspect. I liked what the movie is saying. But I don't know. I don't feel a need to ever watch it again. And that's a shame. It was a good theater experience.
That's fair. I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think it's a
Okay.
good movie. Not amazing, but good. You know.
Mm-hmm. I heard book fans don't like it at all.
Well, that's a mixed bag, from what I can
Uh,
tell. Some book fans do. It depends really on how much the book fans like the next book, which is going to be the third movie. Because my basic understanding, not having read any of them, but Hugh talks to me all the time about them because he's rereading them. His general take is that the third book is a mess, kind of, but like it continues the story of Paul, and it's clear that Denis has changed things that will affect what happens in book 3. So a lot of book fans are like, oh, well, if you can't change this because then you're going to have to change this. And it's depending on how much you like the third book, or the second book, I should say. The second book,
Mhm.
third movie, depending on how much you like what's in that, you might be annoyed at how much he's changing it. But Hugh is is of the opinion that what happens in that second book is actually a mess and probably could be made better by rewriting it, essentially. So
Okay.
it depends on how much you like that second book, Messiah.
All right.
Some book fans quite like it. Hugh's a book
Fair
fan
enough.
and he likes it well
All
enough.
right. That sounds cool.
But that is one of the to get back on track. That is one of the only movies of this year that I legitimately I like. You know, there's been a lot of duds for me so far.
I
I'm looking at
reckon I'll like Deadpool and Wolverine. I know that's the superhero mystique and stuff like that, and it might not be. I think I get the impression that it'll be like No Way Home. You know, some parts that are really messy in terms of writing, but some parts that are really good interactions between Deadpool and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. You know, I
maybe
think it'll be something like that.
we'll see. I'm just looking
But
at the movies I've seen this year. Have you seen The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare?
yes,
You didn't like it?
I was disappointed. I expected it to be better. I
Yeah,
forgot about it.
it's like a totally fine,
Yeah,
okay movie. It's not offensively bad. It's just maybe a little like
yeah. I forgot that I even watched it. I'm like, yeah, I watched it.
Well, there's been so many duds that that's legitimately one of the better movies of new releases I've seen this year.
I watched Boy Kills World.
Boy
I
Kills
forgot I
World?
watched.
What is
Yeah,
that?
it is a boy who is mute, and he has like a video game character voice that he kind of
Oh, weird.
remembers from playing a video game, and he kind of what's his name? Is the guy who played it?
It's Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård. Yeah, he's the actor, and he's mute, but he has the voice of like a video game character he remembered as a kid. So it's kind of like this dark humor comedy action movie with plenty of fighting, and he has to kind of kill some Hunger Games world reader. Basically, is what I would kind of package it as. It's predictable. It's cookie cutter. The action in itself is good. That's about it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, it's
Again,
been
I
a weak
I
year
forgot I
for
watched it. Yeah,
It's been a weak year for new releases so far.
I'm looking forward to Joker 2. I think that'll be
Yeah, the trailer looked interesting. When does that come out? Later
I
this year?
think November, September-ish, somewhere around those months. I
Sounds-
think I can't remember the exact
Gotcha.
month and date. But yeah, later on in the year. Look, Joker 2, Wolverine and Deadpool. Those look, I'm a superhero bitch. I guess I'll go see those and maybe not be completely disappointed. But apart from that, yeah. And I went into this expecting to like it because the commercials, but I didn't. I just
No,
got
there's
like,
been some real horror duds this year.
what's been a
This,
horror?
this
What's the last horror movie you watched that was like that's really good?
Well, it hasn't been this year because they've all okay. So I've watched
Wow.
Longlegs, Maxine, The First Omen, Immaculate.
I heard the first one was good.
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
Not really. No.
Oh.
If you want to stream breaking it down, Hugh and I did one with the Little Platoon. We talked
cool.
about The Omen, the '70s movie, and the new one, the first one. It's not great. It's better than this, but it has a lot of honestly similar problems in terms of like the motivation of the villains and stuff.
Oh,
It gets kind of stupid.
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it honestly. I also saw that crappy Blumhouse movie Night Swim that sucked as well.
Oh, okay.
I saw the TV Glow that also sucked.
Mhm.
Let's see. Man, a lot of horror duds. Okay, so the question was, what's the last horror movie I saw that was
That was
actually good? In terms of new releases,
Just scrolling down
just
infinitely
looking
down the
through my
list.
letterbox. What do we got here? A good recent horror movie.
Do you
Alright.
have to scroll that far down?
Honestly, okay. I wouldn't say it was good, but Saw X was better than I expected it to be.
Okay, fair enough.
And that is because most Saw movies are terrible.
Mhm.
And this one wasn't terrible. And they actually did some interesting character stuff. That's about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't great.
I was gonna say I watched Five Nights at Freddy's. I
didn't think that was terrible either, but I wouldn't call it good, really.
Yeah, I had some time to think about it. I'm like, this isn't actually that well written, which is a shame because I like the Five Nights at Freddy's IP, I suppose you could say. The author he seems like a cool dude, even though his own fan base cancelled him for voting the wrong way. He was writing the script for Five Nights at Freddy's, and at one point he was like, he handed the director a script, and the director said, "Okay, it's pretty cool. We'll go with this." And he read it, and he said, "You know what? I could write something better." He threw that script away and started fresh. And I don't know. I guess that impression built me. Okay, he's cooking something. For him to throw away a script and just start again, maybe it'll be something decent. And it wasn't.
I had very low expectations for Five Nights at Freddy's, and so that it did anything interesting at all, I was like, "Oh, look at that! Good for you." Yeah, there's some character stuff that's actually not terrible in that movie. I've seen way worse, is what I'll say. Okay,
Yeah.
the last horror movie I saw that I would actually legitimately say is good, not with any caveats, is actually the 2022 Hellraiser sequel reboot thing.
Ooh.
Surprisingly good. Everyone
Okay.
assumed that would be terrible because it's a remake of an older movie in current year and all that. It's actually pretty good. I give it like a 7 out of 10. It's a good movie.
You know what? I'll give that a watch.
It's how are you with body horror stuff?
I watched Predator as a 12-year-old kid.
Hey,
And I was fine with the skinning. I wasn't scared of that, but I don't know.
There'll be some gross stuff in there, but it's good.
Yeah, okay.
It's on
I might watch it with some
Hulu
friends,
or Disney Plus or whichever.
Oh no. Don't worry, I'll find a way to watch it. But anyway, we'll wrap this stream up.
Sure.
I have been keeping you for a long time, but it's been fun. Again, all links are in the description below to Capsule Opinions Twitter and YouTube. Would you like to plug anything?
No, you got it covered. Usually I stream on Sundays with my friend Hugh. We talk about new movies, talk about old movies, and all sorts of fun stuff. Got videos in the works. If you haven't seen them yet, you can check out the devs show reviews that we have on our channel. Those are quite fun, and I think you'll enjoy them even if you have no idea what devs is. So go check those out. I'll tell you now, it's a terrible sci-fi show from Alex Garland. Is one of the worst things I've ever seen. And so we have a lot of fun tearing into it. So, if you've got some time on your hands, go check those out.
Nice. Was he behind Civil War?
Yes, he was.
Oh. What else was he behind?
Mostly, okay.
Dread, right?
Alex Garland wrote a few movies and then he started directing. So the ones he wrote but didn't direct are 28 Days Later, Dread, though arguably he kind of like ghost directed that, and Sunshine. And then he started directing his own movies along with writing them, and he did Ex Machina, which is a good movie, and I will stand by that to this day. It's a good movie. Then he did Annihilation, which is bad. And then he did Devs, which is horrible. And then he did Men, which is also really horrible.
Men?
Yes. And then he also did Civil War, which is bad. So
I remember working at a cinema and seeing the poster, seeing bits and pieces of it. And I was like, this is a feminist wet dream.
Men is an awful movie, and I would even go so far as to say that it's kind of misandrist. No, what's the word? No, I
think that's the word. Yeah.
Okay, I had it right. I always get that confused. Yeah. I think it is. I think the movie does hate men in a pretty gross way, but it's bad for a whole number of other reasons as well. He's been on an awful, awful streak of terrible things.
Apparently, Civil War is meant to be his last.
I wish it is. I hope it is. I don't want to see anything he directs ever again.
Yep.
I want him to stop. Please go away. Stop making things.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I have a special dislike of him because I liked Ex Machina so much.
Yeah.
And so when Annihilation came out, I was like, oh, this is going to be really cool. And I'm like, no, that was terrible, actually. And I'm like, okay, maybe that was a fluke. And I watched Devs. Devs is literally one of the worst things I've ever seen. So
okay.
I don't like him anymore. He'll never make anything good ever again. That's the capital O promise.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way.
All right. As for me, expect some more memes on the channel, I suppose. I might do some big streams on Deadpool and Wolverine. But I will be going away on like the 20th. So I don't know if you'll get any memes in between that on the channel. But yeah, expect a big stream on Deadpool and Wolverine. That's probably what I definitely promise. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Goodbye.